Crossover. Oh, killer crossover.
Just crossover.
It just crossed him over nastily.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
Time for the crossover, powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. John Bishop and John Bishop
partner.
only. Well, I guess Nick's
I'm here too.
Nick's here.
Excuse
as well.
me? Excuse me? What do you mean? This is Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop, Josh Peterson, and producer Nick Grimm.
Yeah,
I don't. What do you mean, John Bishop and John Bishop only?
There's only 3 boxes on the screen, Josh. Or John, where is the third?
You just said Josh, though, which means he must be here.
Incorrect. Nor here, nor available to join the show via internet, because there are currently, John Bishop, you wouldn't know this because you're in the holy land of Kentucky, 87,000 plus Omahans without power because of a blizzard that is currently ongoing. You know what a blizzard means, John?
Means a lot of wind and
I think
snow.
this is worse than a normal blizzard because it's slush. It's like a slush blizzard.
It is horrendous.
I hate it. It's also dirty. It was dirty before it hit the ground.
Dirty snow.
I've never seen snow this dirty before it got dirty by people driving on it and stuff.
It's horrific.
It's just dirty snow.
John, last night, I mean, it was incredible. Sitting there doing the baseball game, it was the most perfect night.
It was. Rob Anderson and I were watching from here in Knoxville as we were watching San Diego State get eviscerated by North Carolina. And it was like, man, this looks like a beautiful night for baseball. What a gorgeous night. Connor sounds so happy.
That was great. It was perfect.
I
and
wore
then
shorts yesterday.
7th, 8th inning, the wind just picks up a little bit. It gets a little heavier, and then I feel a little blast of cool air coming in. I'm like, oh, we got to get out of here. And
power
just went out.
Incredible.
That's back. I mean, you wouldn't believe it, John. I can't believe you're not here for this. This is shocking.
I'm glad this computer stayed on.
It's crazy because the last blizzard that we had, I was also gone because that was when we were in Seton Hall and stayed the extra night, and so we avoided all of that. And yeah, now I'm fortunate enough to miss this one, but my God, this is insane. I can remember this is one of those things you remember very vividly as a kid, but it was when I was in grade school, and it was about this time of year. I want to say it was actually April. And I remember, it was a day like yesterday back in Omaha, beautiful sunny day. But then in the afternoon, the wind just kicked up and it was blowing stuff everywhere. It was still a nice, warm day, but the wind was going like crazy. And we drove down to Lincoln for a gymnastics meet at Devaney Center. And by the time we left the gymnastics meet, it was doing what it's doing now in Omaha, all happening within like a 6-hour time span. And we ended up ended up stranded and had to stay in Lincoln for the night. And, I thought, man, I'm never going to see a day like that again. And it's happened now like twice in the last, 3-4 weeks.
It feels like
we've gone from a nice spring few couple of days to this.
Wasn't there one last year where we went from like -10 to like 70 in a 24 to 48 hour span or something like that? I feel
it was
like
pretty close.
We have a really drastic one probably about once a year, whether it goes hot, a lot hotter, or a lot colder. Today we got a lot colder.
Yeah. It was in the crossover where we had the what was it? The conversation we were arguing with Jack Mitchell about the how the temperature changing really rapidly and whether or not that would be a good or a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember what the exact topic was, but basically we're experiencing that now.
Oh yeah.
And it's absolutely insane. And then tomorrow it's supposed to be back up in the 50s, right?
The question was like, if it was 90 degrees and it became 10 degrees, just like for a split second, what sort of damage would that cause to the world?
And I would argue, here is my argument against it. I know it didn't happen. I know it's not like a 1 minute time change, but my God, it is insane.
We've already caused some damage. I mean, there's power lines out. We got not most of Omaha, but a lot of Omaha is lacking power. That is not the first power flash we've had. Yeah, it's a lot.
87,000 people.
It's so heavy.
And a lot of it is like right in our, like the heaviest stuff. I'm looking at the outage map right now. Like the heaviest stuff is right along our part of town too, where we're sitting here in Midtown.
So now for those who probably don't have internet, may not be able to see whatever. You guys, are we on backup there at 50th and Capitol?
I would assume so.
I'm not sure. It's been flickering like in my office all day, but the first time we've lost lights was earlier during the crossover.
What would be the way to know that, John? Is there any telltale signs?
Is black smoke coming out of the generator in the back or whatever?
Nobody's here anymore.
The black smoke only happens when we elect a new NRG Pope, John.
Oh, yeah. Well, we haven't had one of those in a while. Well, I guess this should be forewarning. Of course, we may not be talking to anybody right now because maybe you're one of the 86,000 that are out of power. But those of you who are still with us, there's a good chance, if things continue, that the only person who will have power amongst all of us will be me, and it won't help because the station will be down.
Yeah, that won't get you anywhere.
Yeah. So if you want to enjoy the grum, just put up an umbrella, let the wind grab you and blow you over here to Lexington, and I'll entertain you in person.
That could be a fun contingency plan, though. If we lose power here, John, just do the rest of the show over StreamYard. No commercials, no breaks, just full John.
John talking to his computer.
John Bishop and John Bishop.
Well, yeah, but I'm connected through you, so...
Well, just unmute yourself.
Stream only.
Yeah.
Stream only straight into your computer, and we send it out via. I mean, it doesn't really involve us at all.
Carrier pigeon. We can put the URL on a carrier pigeon.
This just sounds dandy. This just sounds great.
John was so excited, I'm sure, to just absolutely rip into Josh, and yet it's his own problem that has caused his own internet to die, and then he gets a day off out of it. Unbelievable.
He said his hotspot wouldn't even work. I didn't think that could happen.
So that would mean the cellular service is dead too?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think that's right. I don't know
what
why.
the vibe is.
I'm not sure why the hotspot won't work, but I don't know. Yeah,
I got nothing.
I'm not sure.
Maybe it's just because Josh is not very good at technology, even though he tries to convince us that he is. Who knows?
It's a possibility. The other thing is, I don't know when this is going to end. I mean, it's been this miserable all day long. I mean, the snow is still falling. It is windy. Can you
tell? You probably can't tell because the wind's blowing, and so it's not going to fall straight down. But can you tell how much we've gotten?
I mean...
are we going to have another Mount Happer wager here in another day?
John, it's as big as it's ever been. It's back, and it's better than ever right now. And it's back in its rightful spot in the corner of the parking lot.
You got to watch out. McMaster's going to plant the flag.
They've already shoveled it twice. They've already plowed it twice. It's gigantic.
Oh, they have?
Yeah.
Good grief.
They came through before I got here in the morning, and then just probably about an hour or so ago, and plowed the rest out.
Wow, incredible. Kudos to the NRG lot crew for taking care of us.
Alex says, oh no, I lost it. Where'd it go? Everybody's commenting. Alex says John could say the F word if he was alone on StreamYard.
It's true.
Well, I'm not going to do that because I'm sitting here in a room with a bunch of media
adults.
Professionals.
Yeah, where are you, John? Why are you in that room?
We are, this is the convention center, which is attached to Rupp Arena. So it's kind of similar to CHI, where, a lot of the stuff that happens with the NCAA tournament, they utilize the convention center space. So they have utilized the convention center space here as the media center. So I am in the media room, which is a very large, very spacious area.
Good. We don't need everybody else to be subject to your takes.
Yeah. So, and the practices are still going on out there in the main arena. So, I was hoping at some point to learn the layout of this place so I don't get lost. Cause when you mesh an older building, Rupp Arena, with a newer convention center, sometimes things can get a little confusing. So, if I get lost at some point, I know where to find the Diet Coke.
Oh,
and I know where to find the bathroom.
Nice.
So
That's good.
I'm in pretty good shape. But yeah, later on we might actually be able to hold a pickup basketball game in here if we wanted to.
Wow. It took me an entire day to figure out where I was at Madison Square Garden. So I hope you
Yeah, that place can get pretty confusing. Fortunately, I've been there enough times I can kind of remember. But it's a really interesting Rupp Arena. It was built about the same time as, the Devaney Center, much bigger than the Devaney Center. And they're still in the end zones way up high. And it goes way up. It's like 23,000 seats. That's is what huge. It holds. So it is definitely the biggest arena that Creighton has played in that I can remember. I don't remember what the capacity was at Louisville's Yum Center.
Oh.
It was over 20,000 too. Newsflash, they love their basketball in Kentucky. KFC
Yum Center capacity 22,090.
22. All right.
It was called the Yum Center.
So it's right there. But way up in the end zones at Rupp, the seats are bleachers. Whoa. And if you remember back in the old days at Devaney, when all the way up in the end zones, there was like the last 7 or 8 rows, or maybe 9 or 10 rows, were all bleachers. And so it's kind of a bit of a throwback, but interesting town, about the same size as Lincoln, maybe a little bit bigger than Lincoln.
It looks gigantic. I mean,
I think it's spread out more than Lincoln.
Yeah,
but it's I think 300,000, something like that. My wife went she's on with me on the trip. The wives on the tour all went to a horse farm today, and she said it was really cool. So,
whoa.
Yeah, this feels, when we landed here, it feels more like Kentucky than Louisville did.
Interesting.
Or at least what you have in your mind of Kentucky, because as soon as you get off the plane, you get out and you drive around, immediately you see horse farms. You see, big fences, you see horses grazing out, hills and everything like that. And so it was kind of a neat introduction to Lexington to see, just all the horse farms and stuff that that are around.
Dave in the chat, I didn't know they planted horses. The horse farm.
Well, livestock lives on farms.
The horse farm.
Mm-hmm.
The horse farm.
It's a funny joke.
It is a funny joke.
It is a funny joke. By the way,
no, it's not. Dave, go stick your head in a snowbank. I'm sure there's one to find.
Yeah, there is definitely plenty of those out there.
Mike, great crop of horses this year.
See, the arena the arenas that they usually use for the NCAA tournament are usually like professional, whether they're NBA arenas or kind of nicer, newer college arenas. Rupp Arena's got to be one of the few that's out there on the sort of list of those places that is old, and I don't know where the line on that would be, but it just feels like most of them that the NCAA tournament ends up going to were, have been built within the last 20 or 30 years. Yeah,
I think you're right. Because most of the places, I'm just thinking of most of the places we've been to, obviously it's been a lot more pro sports towns, like the Ball Center and Ball Arena in Denver. Even the place in Fort Worth, which, Dickies, which it's not a pro arena, but it's a newer building.
Brand new, right? Yeah.
Yeah, almost brand new. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's, in this day and age, and it's kind of hard for me to acknowledge this, but something that was built more recently than I was born is now considered old.
That's true.
But you're right. I think a lot of the arenas, that are utilized are still, are much more modern. But this one, because of the way it was built, I mean, and they've done, they've refurbished it. So I don't want to make it sound like, it looks its age. It really doesn't. But, I think it's a testament to, how much this state really loves basketball. Why it keeps coming back to Louisville and to Kentucky or to Lexington. This was the spot where Villanova won their famous Final Four in 1985.
Yep.
When they upset Georgetown. So there's been a lot of history here outside of just, UK basketball, that's here. And, hopefully for the Jays, some more history will be made tomorrow. Though it's going to be early. It's going to be weird knowing that.
So weird.
you play the whole season to get to this point, and then you're the first game, and there's that possibility where your season could be done really before the madness really gets started.
Josh and
when you play later in the day, it doesn't quite feel that way. But that first game, man, it seems like the pressure's on. If you lose, it feels like your tournament ended before it even started. Seriously,
Josh and I had like a version of that conversation today, and it's a super unique situation because if they lose, like I don't want to pull a Jack Mitchell here, but if they lose, might it ruin the next 2 days for me? Like maybe I'll get over it by day 2. Maybe I'll get over it by Friday. But I don't know. Like that will be an uncomfortable. I always am in such a great mood when I watch the Thursday and Friday games of the NCAA tournament, and Creighton plays somewhere in the middle on the first or second day. But in the first game, maybe they lose heartbreakingly or something like that. I don't know. It's gonna be. It's hard to know what my state of mind will be like after that.
Well, the good news is Josh's snowstorm that never happened is probably going to knock out all of the television transmitters, and
maybe the tournament is canceled.
Well, at least in Omaha, it'll still go on, but you just won't be able to see it or hear it because the city will be buried under a foot of snow.
Sad.
That's a good question. Because if it were to happen, usually the NCAA tries to get teams out the day of. So if they're done, so there's a good chance we could be home by Friday morning. I don't know how I would look at Friday. Would I still look at it and want to watch it the same way I do? I don't know. Probably not. But hopefully that's not something we have to address.
That's exactly right. So I don't know. It'll be odd to see. And then the snowstorm outside, like once again, I always think about the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament, and I think, the sun's out. There's like, I called it inhabitable weather before. Like you don't go outside and have to put a coat on or freeze or anything like that. This will not feel that way tomorrow. It will. It'll be like we'll go outside, and maybe the weather gets nice, but there will be 6 to 8 inches of snow on the ground coming from yesterday. It's just be odd, I think.
Yeah, because this is usually the kind of stuff that happens during the state basketball tournament,
right?
Not during March Madness, because thinking back, and thankfully the Jays have been in a lot more tournaments than not been in tournaments. So I don't have a lot of recent examples, but the last few years, when I've been home for the first weekend, it was always decent. You could take the dog for a walk, listen to some games, come back, catch the end of whatever you were watching or listening to, and it was just a beautiful day. But not today, my friends, not today.
Have you talked to any of Big Blue Nation about how excited they are about the Jays down there?
Well, that interesting you mentioned that, because we went out to eat last night. And a group of us, not all of us, but a group of us, and some of us had Creighton gear on, and some of the Kentucky fans, spotted us and said hello, and immediately one of the first things out of their mouth was, beat Louisville, So I think there's an outside hope, and I think that's exactly what it is. It's a hope that Kentucky fans that had tickets to this and didn't want to follow the Wildcats in the NCAA tournament will show up and be anti-Louisville because that's what rivals do.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of red in this building tomorrow, and
definitely
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if there's kind of that split crowd. I mean, Connor, we saw it last week in the Big East tournament. There were a lot of UConn fans in the building on Friday, but there's a lot of other people from everywhere else.
Right. They're just nonpartisan.
Yeah, they're not either. They're nonpartisan or they're there to support another team, and they just kind of pick the team that they want to go for. So
they're rooting for a good game or something like
right,
that.
Or they're rooting for a good game, rooting for an upset, whatever the case may be. So I'll be fascinated to exactly see what the breakdown is. I no doubt expect there will be a ton of red in here, but do I expect it to be 100%? No. Obviously, Creighton traveled some fans, and that's the unfortunate thing with the timing of this weather is I'm sure there were probably some Creighton fans who were planning on leaving today and either can't get out.
That's true.
And then, obviously the game is so early tomorrow that, by the time you get everything cleared out, they may not be able to make it here in time.
No, there are no flights leaving Omaha today, or not in the next few hours anyway.
Exactly. So, hopefully the folks who are watching the weather and those who did have plans to come here already made them here, and have already made their way here. But I kind of think it'll be a little reminiscent of the UConn game on Friday, where it definitely was a pro UConn, but it wasn't like it was Saturday. Yeah, it wasn't like it was Saturday. Saturday definitely was very, very, very heavily in favor of the Johnnies. But a lot of that too, that is their hometown. I mean, that's where they are from. Even on Thursday, John, when Creighton was playing DePaul, like by the time that game got late, it was mostly pro DePaul in an overtime, because it was just a bunch of New Yorkers who walked into the Big East tournament and they just wanted to see a good basketball game or an upset or something like that. And so people ended up it felt pro DePaul at the end of that game on Thursday. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, and that's the way it is. And then, of course, tomorrow when you're in an 8-9 game and you have a couple of name brands, there's really not that, upset thing. Now, of course, the second game, when you get Auburn and Alabama State, that's where it's going to be, that's where the potential is for a lot of, people who are there just to see an upset to really get behind somebody and, pull for that. So, I don't think we'll have as much of that tomorrow. But either way, I think it'll be a very unique challenge. Unique challenge. Checking up the power outage map now, 91,782. Good grief. Rapidly rising here in Omaha. And so that means, what are you going to do? Josh is probably not going to be available the whole show. No. Oh, John, I'm so sorry. Well, that's, I'm so sorry. He did this to himself. Something tells me he did it on purpose, not just because he's bad at predictions, but, maybe he just felt like he wanted an extra day off before the start of the tournament. I don't know. But, yeah, I'm looking at the heat map right now, and not a good day, man. Look at this. No, it's bad. This is bad. What was it? Do you remember what it was when we had that freak windstorm last summer? Oh, and no. That roared through? Because I think this is worse. I don't know. I feel like I, for some reason, remember somebody saying over 100,000 in that regard, but we're trending that way, obviously, in this one. Oh, yeah. I think we're going to be there real soon. Now, of the 91,000, 56.5 are from Douglas County, because obviously NPPD or OPPD covers more than just Omaha, but still, that is and there's so many people right in the middle of town. I know. It's the heat map is like right basically where we are. Yeah, it's right over the top of us. So somebody said on the text line that over 12,000 without power in Lincoln. Wow. John, maybe you don't have power at your house right now. How would you know? I just got a response. Well, no, I guess I haven't figured it out. Oh, I don't know. My wife said that one son is at work and the other one is sleeping. So I guess if the power's out at our house, I have no idea. Yeah, and if he's sleeping, nobody really, what does it matter? You'll figure it out. You need power when you sleep, I guess. Exactly. You don't need power unless you're like a robot. Yeah. Yes. Then you need oil. Yes. And power. I got Matt DeMarinis texting me from across the room. Why? Bro, we're trying to work way over here, is what he's saying. Matt, what? Matt's a coward. Come on the camera and say it, Matt. He is, man. He's all the way across the room. We're almost on opposite ends of the. Dude, Matt DeMarinis has been everywhere. He was covering the women at the Big East tournament. Then he went to New York, and now he appears in Lexington. I assume he'll probably show up in Texas at some point as well. I have no idea with the women's basketball team. I have not asked him if he is going, because they play on Friday. I would be surprised, but you never know. You never know. Yeah, he might. But yeah, he has been. I was thinking this the other day because, we bring the band and the cheerleaders and the dance team here. They left for the Big East women's tournament. Yep. it would have been a week ago Wednesday, last Wednesday.
And they stayed out on the road.
And they stayed out there. Then they went to New York, and then they came back with us late Saturday night, early Sunday. And then, of course, yesterday we fly out here. So they have really been putting in the long time away from home. This is going on. Well, today is exactly 2 weeks, right? Since they left.
At least they avoided
have
the
only been
snowstorm.
at home. And exactly. They avoided the blizzard.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
it was all worth it just to avoid the blizzard here, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What a weird day.
Yeah, super odd. Super odd. I keep seeing the plow just piling up Mount Happer even more in the southwest corner of our parking lot. John,
so
here.
Does this mean we need to start a new Mount Happer?
I don't know. We have take the thing again. Yeah, take the vote again.
Yeah, let's take a look outside here.
Cam.
For those of you who don't already know that it's bad out there, well, the traffic's moving well on Old Dodge Street.
There's not many people out there. Probably, that's a good call by them. Now, what I'm showing you right now does not probably do it justice. But
I'm sure it doesn't.
The fence is in the way.
There's a whole bunch of snow in the air, and then you can see Mount Happer in the corner. I'm surprised that our sign on the corner is working there, considering our power situation here. But
and also considering the wind. I mean, at some point, it probably wouldn't hurt if that thing got knocked over, and then we could, claim it on the insurance and replace that thing.
That would be awesome.
So maybe if someone wants to just accidentally careen off of Dodge Street and take it out at the base,
there's the sign. It's a good size, the old signs that have
digital
just the
message
lights,
board,
digital message boards. But in the middle, the entire middle panel is out, so you could see what's trying to be displayed on the board, which is all of our radio stations here at NRG Media. But there's just a big hole in all of them. So
incredible.
That's where we're sitting at right now. And I asked about this a long time ago, and somebody said they don't know how to change it, or they don't know what to do basically with it, and it's not even legal anymore or something like that. We were like, grandfathered in on this.
Yeah. Well, probably just having the sign there. Period.
The sign.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, just having the sign there.
That.
Yeah, because I'm guessing that they passed some kind of ordinance about digital signage right along Oster or Dodge Street.
We would have to make
Lincoln
it taller or larger or smaller or something like that, whatever it is. But we basically have the last sign of its kind.
Nice. You know what we should do? Here's the idea: to replace the sign, and also to punish Josh for creating this mess in the first place. He should be forced to stand outside with a bunch of giant flashcards that basically say the same message that our digital sign would have said, like, listen to Power 106.9, nice. Sweet 98.5, News Talk 1290, 1620 The Zone, and just stand there right along the street and just hold those cards for an entire day.
Or we put Josh out there in the middle of the blizzard if we can make contact with him at some point. We get him out there in the middle of a blizzard, and he's just holding a sign that said, "I did this."
Oh, he did do this.
I did that.
That would probably be better.
Because he did do this.
He did.
And he's not even on air today to deny it. He can't deny it. That's why he's running away from the truth.
He's guilty, is what it is. Just a big ball of guilt, like slush in his stomach.
Yeah, but strangely, he still comes out of this winning because now he's just, sitting at home chilling. And, well, I guess if his power's out, he's probably freezing now.
Has he done any tweets? Let's see. He hasn't texted us, so which probably means he's not listening to the show. Last tweet was 2 hours ago. Power is out, and my car is struggling to get out of the neighborhood. Let's see if I could do a Wednesday grum in a couple hours. Guess we know the answer to that question.
We sure do.
I guess the answer is no. Incredible.
Yeah. And people were encouraging him on Twitter to say, don't worry about it, Josh. It's okay. Just take a day off.
Well, this is a tough look for Stibbs because yesterday on the show, Stibbs was saying, it's not going to be anything. It won't be bad. He was a denier. He was a slush blizzard denier.
Honestly, I was kind of handshake memeing with Stibbs on that one. It kind of felt like everybody's talking about this and it's going to be a big nothing burger and then we'll move on with our lives and it'll be springtime. But this is definitively not a nothing burger. This is a something burger.
They had the interstate closed west of Lincoln when I woke up this morning.
Yeah, I've seen some things about that throughout the day. It
So-
doesn't happen very often. I know it just happened a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago.
say, that's happened
but-
twice in the last month.
No, they do that out in usually it gets that way out in western Nebraska where there's less maintenance crews and just usually more bad weather like this. But yeah.
Oh boy. No.
Well, anyway, we'll make do. We'll make do. We'll be fine.
Are you
All
sure?
will be well.
Are you sure? You guys will be okay?
Yeah, we can talk
Yeah.
about Formula One and baseball, right, John?
Wow, what a show!
Well, I watched enough baseball today to know that my team's now in last place, and I did not watch any of the Formula One.
For now. Last place for now. The Rockies haven't played yet.
Fortunately, they're not in the same division, so they can both be in last.
We were talking earlier. We were talking earlier about, man, this could suck. Play the first game of the day, be done before the rest of the tournament really gets started. Same thing's happening with the Cubs. The season really hasn't started yet, and we're 2 games back in the loss column.
It's already over, John.
This sucks.
Pack it up. Pack it up.
I hate everything.
Hey, I wanted to ask your opinion on this because you and I are both old souls. You're an old, actually.
I'm a very old soul.
So, what have you seen these AI replays that they're doing of the MLB games?
Yes.
How stupid is that? One of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
It's so unnecessary because it doesn't really look that good. And
it doesn't look good at all. It doesn't look like anything.
Right. And B, you already have, HD, and now we got 4K, and we've already, if the game is, produced correctly, you already get great replays of this stuff. Yeah, I saw one yesterday. It was with Gentleman Dansby.
Yeah, he made a play in the hole or something like that and celebrated. I don't need this. I don't need the angle right behind his butt.
No, especially when it's not really real. Just show me the real one. That's all I want.
It looks ridiculous. It's unnecessary.
We need to. Listen, AI is going to be the death of us all. Apparently, Skynet is here. We don't need it coming for our replays.
I didn't realize those were AI. I could tell they weren't real, but I thought they just had motion sensors in the players, and then they could just animate it.
I
assume they're AI. I guess I don't even know what they are. All I know is I hate them.
Yeah, it's a form of AI.
And then all the accounts are just like, look at how cool this is.
That's where I saw
cool
it.
At all.
I do kind of like those camera angles. I think it looks actiony. It's exciting.
You know what else looks actiony? The regular first base cam, center field cam, third base cam, dugout cam,
I wonder if
sky
this is what
cam,
people
drone
talk
cam.
about when replay was first introduced to baseball. We have eyes. We saw it. We don't need to see it again.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, when they introduced instant replay, to affect the outcomes of plays, then I was triggered.
Yeah.
And I'm still triggered about it to this day, but
yeah,
I guess I'm not getting past that one.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Okay. Well, good luck, John.
Well, good luck to you. I mean, you're the one that has to now get in your vehicle and traverse in this crap and get home.
Yeah, I think I'll be okay.
Unless you want to hang out for the next 4 hours until it clears up more.
I'm gonna give it a go. And we'll see what happens out there.
You probably should.
Yeah. Go home, see my child, my wife.
Make sure she remembers your face.
Make sure your house doesn't lose power.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd prevent that, but yeah, hopefully it doesn't. That'd be bad.
That's why underground power lines are the best, my friend. Of course, that doesn't always guarantee that you keep power, but it's better than nothing.
Got those. So. That's good. All right, John.
All right. Well, thank you, Connor. Appreciate it. We're going to miss you here.
I will. I am very jealous, but have fun. Have a great call tomorrow. We'll be listening.
All right. We'll do that. Thank you very much. That's Connor Happer Show. And I guess Nick and I will just forge through all by our lonesome today. But we've got some good stuff coming up. Ryan Miller is going to join us. Mike Schaefer is going to join us. And Mike Sauter is going to join us as we preview the Omaha schools in the big dance. It is the eve of Creighton and Omaha in the big dance. It's Unsportsmanlike Conduct on 1620 The Zone.
OCN. Unsportsmanlike conduct on 1620 The Zone. Husker Athletics, Creighton, and yes, UNO. Don't miss a moment, they'll give you your fix. They're on every day from 2 until 6. Spend your afternoons with John, Josh, and Nick. John, Josh, and Nick. They'll show you what sports talk really is.
Yeah, it is a snow day blizzard edition of the program. And wouldn't you know who won the pony?
Must be nice.
Must be nice. Josh.
Sportsmanlike conduct on 1620 The Zone. Husker Athletics, Creighton, and yes, UNO.
Good afternoon, everyone. John Bishop from Lexington, Kentucky, site of the first and second rounds of the NCAA men's basketball tournament, where tomorrow at 11:15 Omaha time, the Creighton Blue Jays will be taking on the Louisville Cardinals from just an hour down the road. Expecting a partisan Louisville crowd in this building tomorrow, which is interesting given that Louisville's biggest rival plays in Rupp Arena, UK. I guess we're going to get a chance to experience what folks thought might have been possible last year. Remember when Nebraska was sitting on the 8-9 line for the NCAA tournament, there was talk that, well, maybe they'll get sent to Omaha. And how would Omaha react to that? Because usually a lot of Jays fans are ticket holders to the NCAA tournament. So do they put on their red gear? Do the Jayskers come out and support them? Or do they sell them to Husker fans? Or do they go and root to spite Nebraska? What would it take? I mean, this is essentially what we're getting here in Lexington tomorrow, is the idea of Louisville, the rival, playing in the hometown of the Kentucky Wildcats. But we'll see. We'll see how it turns out, and how many folks come in here dressed in red. By the way, there's a chance, in next time the NCAA comes out with its new site selection, that Lincoln could be a location.
Ooh.
So, and that certainly would open up the door to possibly the Jays getting sent to Lincoln in a future tournament.
That would be really funny.
Well, it'd be. I think it'd be good for Nebraska. Mm-hmm. I mean, Omaha does a great job hosting the tournament. Lincoln has definitely improved their infrastructure in terms of being able to host a tournament, because the thing that was getting in Lincoln's way, was not having the arena for it, even though Devaney back in the 80s hosted a couple of NCAA tournaments, but that was back when the procedures, the protocols, the parameters for what you could do to host a tournament were much different. But they built the new arena. The other problem was they didn't have enough full service hotels. Now they've added several hotels in the last few years. Another one is going up right down the street from Pinnacle Bank Arena. So Lincoln's infrastructure to be able to host an NCAA tournament is much more compatible. And so there is a strong belief in and around the Lincoln community and the Nebraska community that Lincoln could be a NCAA tournament host the next time the host sites come around. So be on the lookout for that.
The irony about that is they have enough hotels, but now there's too much road construction happening downtown where nobody can get anywhere.
That's true. That is true.
Do you think the fans there are going to be more aggressively pro Creighton since they love basketball in Kentucky in a different way than they probably do here?
Well, the folks who are from Lexington or are UK pilled,
yes,
will be, I think, pretty aggressively against Louisville because it is their rival.
Right.
The question is how many people from Louisville will buy up tickets to come here. And I don't know what the pre-sale was, because like in Omaha, the reason why Omaha continually gets selected as a tournament location, Mecca and Creighton do a great job of hosting it.
Mm-hmm.
They are by the book. They're always considered some of the best tournament hosts in the NCAA.
There's a billion hotels.
And because it is tied to Creighton season tickets, they give Creighton season ticket. I shouldn't say it's tied, but they give Creighton season ticket holders first dibs because it's Creighton's building, and they buy them up, and then they go to the games. I mean, if you watch and tomorrow may not be a great example, at least watching this game, but you'll watch a lot of those early tournament sites, and you'll see a lot of empty seats. Because the local community hasn't bought in as strongly. I don't think that's as big a problem here because it's a great basketball state. But I'll be fascinated to see how it looks elsewhere. But that's one of the reasons why Omaha always gets picked, is because it's supported very well, it's put on very well, and I have no doubt that if Lincoln got the opportunity, that they would be able to do the same thing. So. Yeah, I think tomorrow will be rather interesting to see exactly what the breakdown is when we tip off. And again, 11:15 with the tip off. Our pregame coverage starts at 10 a.m. Omaha time with Blue Jays shoot around, and then Ross Ferrini and I will take over at 10:45, and we'll hear from Coach Mack and get you right up on to tip off here on 1620 The Zone. And a quick reminder that if you want to stream our broadcast. Normally, we're able to stream on 1620 The Zone and the Zone app, but because of NCAA restrictions, we are only allowed to do that through the Varsity Network. So if you go to thevarsitynetwork.com, thevarsitynetwork.com, or if you download the Varsity Network app wherever you have your smartphone, provided you have power to be able to do that today, make sure you do that if you want to catch us on the stream, either in Omaha, anywhere in the world. Make sure, because that's the only place you will be able to hear our call.
Maybe even Japan.
And our call of Creighton. Yes, maybe even Japan. Our call of Creighton or Gary's call of Omaha. If you're outside the Omaha market, because we're only on the Zone, UNO, Omaha is only on 1290. But if you want to hear us outside of the market, the only place to get us streaming is on the Varsity Network, and that is for the NCAA tournament only. Time for the Grum Down, presented by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Of course, we are live here from the house that Dolph built.
I don't get it. Who's Dolph, John?
Adolph Rupp.
Okay.
The legendary basketball coach at Kentucky, who may have also inspired the name of Stibbs' fake band one time, Dolph Gets Woke. So this is the house that Dolph built, Adolph Rupp.
Incredible.
I had a chance to catch up with new Creighton assistant or actually soon to be former Creighton assistant, still Creighton assistant for now, but new Murray State head coach Ryan Miller. You'll get that conversation a little bit later on in the program. Media day today. We'll have some of the audio from both the Louisville and the Creighton players. Obviously, a lot of questions were asked about Louisville's seeding for this event, why they were seeded 8th. Did they see it as a slight? How are folks going to respond to what is expected to be a partisan Louisville crowd? So you'll get some of that, as well as some of the breakdown of the game. So we'll hear some of that audio still to come. How much longer will Thursday and Friday still be special? Of course, we're moving into one of the most anticipated 4 days in sports. But I would really narrow it down to 2 days. I mean, Saturday and Sunday are great. Round of 32, it's still part of March Madness. But we're used to seeing sports on Saturday and Sunday. Thursday and Friday, even today, as we've added NFL games on Thursday, we've added NFL games on Friday. There's more sports on than ever before. But these 2 days have always been something special because of the concentrated nature of it, how it's always been staggered, the dramatic upsets, the dramatic game-winning shots. These 2 days, Thursday, Friday, first weekend of the NCAA tournament, have been very special for a long time. But how long will they continue to still be special? We'll explain a little bit later on. Mike Schaefer will join us here in just a few moments. Breathing a sigh of relief. Why would Schaefer be breathing a sigh of relief?
He doesn't have to watch Nebraska basketball anymore.
Well, they're still in the Crown. I mean, if he wanted to, he could still watch the Crown.
I forgot about the Crown.
Will. Mike Sauter of Herd at Sports, Herd at Media will join us. We're going to map the Mavs upset journey. Could they upset St. John's in Providence tomorrow night? We'll ask him what the roadmap is to that upset. Darren DeVries going to Indiana, not to Iowa.
Ooh.
Also, it is Dumb Debates Wednesday. Make sure you get in your dumb debates. Use the hashtag when you submit your dumb debates into the Equitable Bank inbox, or both the Equitable Bank inbox, John at 1620thezone.com or Nick at 1620thezone.com, or the traditional way, which has been the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at USC 1620. Use that hashtag dumb debates. And Madness Memories equals free food.
Oh?
Here's how it works. Today, we're going to do an email. It's not really a contest, but we want you to submit to us your favorite March Madness memories.
I like the alliteration.
March Madness memories. Send us your favorite March Madness memories, whether it was a game or an individual effort or a shot or a buzzer beater, whatever the case may be. Send us your favorite March Madness memories into the Equitable Bank inbox, John at 1620thezone.com. We will share those as the Grum goes on, and then we will pick how many, Nick? Do we have 4?
We have 4.
We have 4 at random. 4 gift certificates as part of our zone deal this week. And our zone deal is to the Backlot Pizza and Kitchen, located in Elkhorn. Detroit-style pizza, smash burgers, great appetizers, and more. They've got a tremendous cocktail menu. It's a really cool setting. They've got the patio when the weather is nice. Obviously not today, but weather will be nice again soon. And that is our zone deal this week, where you can buy 2 $25 gift vouchers for Backlot Pizza and Kitchen for only $25. So it's $50 value for $25. But we're giving away 4 of the $50 vouchers today on the Grum.
And that can be any team memory, right? It doesn't have to be specific to local teams.
No. Anybody. Your favorite March Madness memory. Send it to me, John at 1620thezone.com. We'll share a few of these as the show goes on today, and we will pick at random. So don't worry even if I don't like your March Madness memory. Don't worry. It's all picked at random.
It is.
This is your favorite March Madness memory. We'll pick 4, and they will get those $50 gift vouchers to Backlot Pizza and Kitchen. So John at 1620thezone.com. You can also hit us up on the Zone hotline at 402-951-1620. You can also text there as well, but Josh isn't here because, the snow didn't happen apparently. But
might
if you
be
want
logged
to text,
into the text line. I might be able to get into that.
You could.
I'm not. Never mind.
Mike Schaefer will join us from Husker 24/7. He's coming up next, live from Lexington, as we're getting ready for the NCAA tournament on 1620 The Zone.
Upgrading your home has never been easier or more affordable. John Bishop here for your home improvement company. Need new windows? Here's an unbeatable deal. 50% off your window purchase. Minimum of 4 windows. A deal you don't want to miss. And easy financing with 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 12 months. Or transform your space. Upgrade that bathroom to a spa-like retreat. Save up to 30% off a bathroom remodel. And just like with the windows, no money down, no interest, and no payments until 2026. Call YHIC today at 402-764-1720 and schedule a free in-home consultation. Windows, bathrooms, or both. Limited time offer. Don't miss out. Let me repeat, 50% off your window purchase, minimum of 4 windows, or save up to 30% off a bathroom remodel. Call 402-764-1720 today. That's 402-764-1720. You're going to love the difference with your home improvement company. Visit YHIC.com and find out more. YHIC will exceed your expectations and make your home better. Don't wait. Call today, 402-764-1720, and love the difference. Mike Schaefer.
There's a part of me that really thinks that there's a Sasquatch.
Mike Schaefer.
I think the issues here are largely football related.
Mike Schaefer.
People are like, oh, the Vikings are terrible. And it's like, yeah, terrible teams always go 13-4.
Mike Schaefer.
And I don't feel good for anybody. All my entire life is rooting for sports teams that get as tantalizingly close as possible and then don't win.
Mike Schaefer.
I have no joy in my heart for you or you or you.
Mike Schaefer.
Man, I look to my left outside here and watching the cars speed by, and the weather's nice and people are walking and they're not being blown off. And I feel so blessed that I'm not sitting there in the destructive blizzard that is happening to our fair city. John Bishop back here in Lexington. Mike Schaefer will join us shortly. Apparently he was having some computer issues. Don't know if they were weather related. Of course, I think we can just pretty much blame any technical glitches today on the weather, except I can't blame any technical glitches on the weather because I'm not where the weather is. And now, for some reason, I am the only one in the stream. Nick, what are you doing? Why have you besmirched me? Why have you taken yourself out of the stream here?
Because I was hoping that Schaefer would be in time, and then it would be a very smooth transition. Oh, well, there he is.
And he is showing up as we speak.
I tried, John. Director of video is not easy.
No, we're all juggling things today, but there he is, Mike Schaefer of Husker 24/7. Schaefer, how you doing? Welcome to Lexington via the internet.
I appreciate the welcoming to Lexington, a community I've never been to in Kentucky. I don't know that I am seeking it out to go visit at any point in time, but I do appreciate the hospitality that you're offering from there. I'm somewhat flustered because my computer is just like on its last legs, and I keep trying to get one more day out of it. Like I'm just riding this thing into the ground. So I have a nicer, newer computer, but I don't have the attachment that allows me to hook up a microphone. So this is still the video computer for now.
Well, being our Lincoln correspondent today, how bad are things in Lincoln right now? Are you able to see outside?
Yeah, the windows are pretty well frosted over, sleeted over, but I can see outside. The wind has just been unrelenting. I mean, there's not as much snow, which is nice, and it'll melt relatively fast. So I'm not super worried about that. But if you were out driving around right now, first of all, the power outages are quite massive, and then you have street lights hanging out in the middle of main street thoroughfares. But other than that, I mean, it's just super windy, strange weather. Like it is a weird weather day out there for sure. It started with all the rain, and then it was like brown sleet. Like it just looked weird. And then now we've got actual snow on top of the brown sleet. So,
well, Schaefer, as we're going through one crisis right now, a crisis has been averted. The Minnesota Vikings are apparently going to go forward with J.J. McCarthy instead of pursuing Aaron Rodgers. I have to imagine, even on this miserable weather day, this has to be a very pleasing turn of events for you.
Yeah, it's quite amazing that in order to get me fully on board with J.J. McCarthy, the universe had to throw out the option of quite possibly my least favorite athlete of all time potentially ending up as the quarterback of my favorite team. And if I needed any kind of incentive to root for a quarterback that I don't believe in the slightest, that was the way to do it, because I would much rather see what J.J. McCarthy is than spend a single second with Aaron Rodgers on that team. So I don't think it was ever – I think they briefly considered it, humored it, if you will, and then I almost feel like they had a little bit of fun with it to a degree. I don't think Minnesota was ever interested in bringing Aaron Rodgers over, especially when, even if you consider what the cost of it would be, is roughly what 1 year of Sam Darnold for the Seahawks is. So why in the world would they do everything they've done and then still pay $30 million for a guy who best years are very, very much behind him?
I'm not convinced that this will happen, but it would not surprise me, I guess, that no one good enough takes a flyer, because I can't imagine he's going to take another gig with a team that's going nowhere. I mean, he's going to want to
just
play
be chasing
somewhere.
money at that point.
Yeah,
I mean that's all it would be.
But that everyone's going to pass on him, and he's not going to do it, and instead he'll try to spin it as, well, it's time for me to retire, versus nobody wanted me because the juice is not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, I if he was less of who he is, you could envision the scenario where he would do the Joe Flacco thing, where he's just sitting at home. There's an injury to a team like the Vikings or the Lions or somebody that's built to win, and that he could comfortably sort of step in and know that there's weapons and whatever it is. Joe Flacco was able to do that, and he took the Browns to the playoffs. Like, if Joe Flacco can do that, and that was a solid Browns team, but it wasn't like a great Browns team, you would think that maybe somebody like Aaron Rodgers could, but I just don't think his ego would allow that to happen. I don't think his inability to stay out of the news. Like, that's the thing about Aaron Rodgers, that at this point in his career, he needs to be in the news as much as he wants to be on a football field. Like, it's a very fascinating dynamic to watch unfold, but I'm glad it's going to be someone else's problem. I can revert back to just being completely pessimistic about first round draft choice JJ McCarthy. But if he needed any little bit of confidence from me, it would be, hey, at least you're not Aaron Rodgers.
So, Schaefer, as we transition now to your regular beat, and I know, we kind of talked a bit about this previously after the decision by Matt Rule to let go of the spring game. But now that we're basically in the throes of spring football, we've had the pre-spring press conference, the practices will be starting up. Is not having the spring game going to change the way the spring football is covered?
No, because I think we're still going to have the same availability. I don't know, but I wouldn't be shocked if there's an open practice, so to speak, like a scrimmage period that maybe the media is allowed to see. And if they don't, that's their choice too. But we're still going to have the same availability. The questions are still going to be asked. You're just not going to have that visual to be able to line up everything that you saw. But if you think about recent spring game history, I mean, people watched last year's spring and thought, there's no way this Dante Dowdell guy is going to be able to help Nebraska. And then he was a pretty serviceable running back. I would stop well short of saying that he was good, but he was certainly serviceable and usable, and he made a big jump in the summer. I don't know that we need the spring game in itself for coverage to continue as it's been. You might see a difference in coverage that could be elevated. You might get people asking different questions or taking things in a different perspective, or going in a different direction. I say all of this, but it's not like I'm just lined up with answers for what all of those are. I hope I can figure it out. I hope that 24/7 Sports or Husker 24/7 can lead in terms of different coverage. But I view it as an opportunity to see it from a different angle, experience from a different angle, and it's our job to provide coverage. It's our job to ask questions. It's our job to find out who's doing well over there. It's our job to not just accept whatever it is that they say, but to try to get them to explain, okay, if, just as an example, if Marcus Satterfield is talking and he's talking about Heinrich Haarberg, what is it about Heinrich Haarberg that's doing well? Why, not just like, oh, we're impressed by the transition, blah, blah, blah. Maybe try to move past some sort of canned responses that you would get, and you'd be able to line it up with your eyes because you've got a spring game that you can see a Heinrich Haarberg or whatever. I think we're going to have to try to get them to answer more in depth in ways, or more specific in some ways. But ultimately, still what you're going to end up with is the word of the coaches relative to whatever we might get in terms of being able to see it with our own eyes. So you're going to have to decide as a listener or as a viewer of our work, whether you accept what these coaches are saying is based around fact, based around what they want to happen, or just sort of out there as a thing that gets said. Because all of that is what happens when you ask somebody a question.
You're right, Schaefer. And I am curious, and I'm glad. And I think it's always good when we're, as media, to be inner focused and critique based. Where how can we do our job better to serve the audience, to serve the reader, whatever. And not having that visual of a spring game. Even not that we necessarily took the spring game as, okay, well, this is the ultimate judge of how a spring football went and a great predictor of how things are going to go. But, we have all joked about the spring game heroes and, the guys that we think, are going to do well based on what we saw in one scrimmage. But I do wonder if not having that moment and then not having the video or, the masses being able to watch that event as they were in the past is going to lead to a change in the possibility of a player being overhyped or maybe someone who's flown under the radar and how that changes the dynamic of the conversation going into the summer and then into the fall, because how we spend that summer. We spend that summer, concocting every possible scenario of how's this team going to be really good and why is it because it's going to be this player. And so not having that spring game, I do wonder if it's going to change a little bit, how we're going to communicate about this team over the several months that will follow what would have been a spring game in the start of the regular season, or at least the start of fall camp.
Yeah, in some ways, I think what it's going to lead to is we're going to be surprised by players in a way that maybe we haven't been in the past. Like, as an example, I'm just using this one because we talked about him on our podcast earlier today. Someone like Maverick Noonan, that's a guy that's been in the program for a few years. He could go have a big spring. And if the right question isn't asked, or if his name isn't just thrown out there by Matt Rule, or if we aren't doing our jobs in terms of the media and directly asking about where's Maverick Noonan in year 3 as he's worked back from injury, as a guy who's a backup and a bit of a contributor last year, where's that guy at? If we're not asking that question, or if nobody gets around to a certain player and it doesn't come up, you have a greater chance of just being surprised by people when Nebraska plays Cincinnati in August, because we're not going to have the same sort of visual on the roster. Now, the way that things work around here, enough people are able to go over and see practices, enough people know enough people that say enough things that usually you have a pretty good indication of who's practicing well and how things are looking and everything else. But I think it allows for you to kind of go into that first game with a little bit more of a unclear mindset, I guess, in a way, or I want to say open mindset instead of having your priors already kind of determined, because sometimes we get so into that first week of the season. Like, this is how I was last year. So I'm going to use myself as an example and critique it.
Yeah.
I was so convinced that Nebraska's passing offense, because of what I saw in the spring game, because of players like who I thought Jalen Lloyd could be and Jamal Banks could be and Isaiah Nair could be, that I just almost blindly accepted that Nebraska's passing offense wouldn't run into issues. And then the first couple games of the season, it felt like I got reinforced on my viewpoint on that. So then when Nebraska ran into problems, it was really hard for me to try to identify, okay, so what is the issue here? Why are they having these issues? What happened to the passing game? Because you get really locked into and a lot of that is, think about how easy it all looked for Dylan Raiola last year in the spring. And then, of course, against UTEP and at times against Colorado and others. So sometimes that spring game can be such a crutch because we build the picture of what we want it to be. And then we sort of tell ourselves, well, this is what it is. And then it's hard to adapt to when that's not the case in the actual games that matter. And again, I'm using myself as an example here. It took me way too long to accept that Nebraska's offense was in a real problem and that the passing game couldn't just fix itself. And I'm still a little bit shocked as to how bad it got last year. But I kept going back to, well, it looked so good against UTEP and it looked so good in the spring game and this and this and that. And I never accepted that against different defensive sets, Nebraska's wide receivers just couldn't get open.
Mike Schaefer of Husker 24/7 on the website. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. His colleague, Brian Christopherson, put out his Super Six. Super Six, big Sky Point to Super Six.
We're bringing it back next year. Maybe even in the summer. I don't know. I had an existential crisis over the Super Six, and then it just sort of got away from me. And then now it's March. I had this conversation with Josh. I feel bad about it, but it will be back. It's not gone forever. It's just a failure on my part.
Well, let's at least perpetuate it for a moment. And I mentioned BC. He had Dawson Merritt. And this is the traditional Super Six where we're looking at high school recruits. He had him at the top of the rankings. Would that be your number one on your Super Six?
Yeah, I think it's Dawson Merritt. I could give some idea to it being Cortez Mills. I think those are kind of my 1-2, and those were the big additions that they added last year. Once you get beyond that, then it kind of becomes I really like Malcolm Simpson, so he's probably, if I'm doing this right now off my top of my head, it looks like it's Merritt, Mills, Simpson. And then I like Houston Kahina-Torres quite a bit. I like Christian Jones quite a bit. You have Jeremiah Jones in there. You have Jamarian Parker had a big year in St. Louis. I mean, that class, because I think the shame of the transfer portal is that people won't look at high school recruiting in the same way, or they won't get excited about it in the same way because these guys might transfer. And I understand that, but I thought they actually put together, after kind of a slow start, a really sort of interesting class of guys that, I found myself lamenting Connor Booth is unavailable for this spring, because that could be someone that could have played himself into a short yardage role or something. If Quentin Ives stumbles and Nebraska needs a change of pace back with Emmett Johnson, it could have been somebody like Connor Booth if he had the opportunity to go through spring. I think that gets a lot harder because he's not going to be available. But I guess what I'm talking to is there's some depth to that class that they put together here in 2025 that I just don't know that people are going to recognize. And they had a lot of injuries that I think sort of rob it too. Like someone like Pierce Mooberry, I think there'd be a lot of excitement about what he could maybe even look like as a freshman. But because of tearing his ACL and he's going to miss all of spring, and he's probably just headed for a redshirt season. But that's someone 2 years from now could just be flying through spring. And it's like, whoa, Pierce Mooberry, where did this guy come from? Turns out it was Millard North, and he was in the 2025 recruiting class. But we were really locked in on Desan McCullough. We didn't realize that Nebraska picked up a potential really interesting Jack linebacker. I mean, that kind of thing. I just, the way we talk about recruiting, the way people read recruiting and react to recruiting, it's all changed so much that was kind of the heart of the existential crisis. I didn't think people cared in that way. And I didn't want to do a Super Six where all it was rehashing 6 transfer portal guys. Like I just think there's a way that I need to be able to do this. And I think I have to do it in the first window before the portal even opens for that first signing day. Otherwise, the Super Six gets watered down and becomes something else entirely.
Schaefer, on the basketball side of things, the big news in the Big Ten this week is, you've got at least you had 2 really premier open jobs. Now one of them has been filled. Darren DeVries is coming back from, West Virginia back to the Midwest, but he's not coming to Iowa. He's going to Indiana. Meanwhile, Iowa is still looking for a coach. How do you think that impacts Nebraska basketball? You're bringing DeVries in, who used to be a longtime foil at Creighton, to try to, get Indiana basketball back to where it used to be. But then the conversation around Iowa and the fact that a lot of folks thought if he was coming back to the Big Ten, it was going to be to Iowa. And now there's all kinds of concerns about, where's Iowa's place in the Big Ten in basketball? How do you think it impacts NU?
Yeah, as far as Nebraska, this is like the first time that Indiana's hired a coach where I've actually been like, oh, I can see a pathway to success here. Because I didn't believe in Tom Crean. I definitely did not believe in Archie Miller. I thought Archie Miller was one of the worst hires for a program that really needed to go out and do something. And it's like, oh, let's just go get a hot name from Dayton. That's definitely going to work at a place like Indiana. Not battle-tested, not familiar with what the expectations are going to be. Just a big name, and it didn't work. And then Mike Woodson was a weird, it felt like Indiana has just been in this sort of cycle of, instead of doing what comes natural, it's just chasing, oh, we got to get the hot coach that everybody wants, or we got to get Tom Crean, or we got to get Mike Woodson. This feels like one where it's a basketball guy who's been around the block a little bit. He obviously had success at Drake. He was only at West Virginia for a short amount of time, but he had success there. And they should have been a tournament team by all accounts, should have been a tournament team, which would have made this entire thing a little bit more interesting. Though we did see the coach from McNeese State's like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and accept a job before my team's even played this week. Because that won't wipe out anyone's motivation to play. So I thought Indiana made, for once, a really nice hire. And I think that only lengthens out. And Indiana was solid this year, but Nebraska's kind of been beating them up. Like that's been a consistent win for Nebraska basketball the last 3 seasons. And I've said this multiple times. Indiana and Nebraska have like the same amount of tournament appearances going back to 2014. And so like it's kind of a shocking thing. And so I expect Indiana will make a jump. I mean, they're always going to be a place that has resources. In the rev share era, I do wonder, because you had a team that went to the college football playoffs. So like, how much money can they really allocate to football and to basketball if you want to be good at both of those at a high level? And so they're kind of in a unique spot. Iowa, I'm kind of pretty interested as to what they're going to do. I don't know that there's like a clear front runner for that job right now, is there?
I mean, the natural thing is going to be to look at Drake and look at McCollum, who has been rumored for a lot of these different jobs. But you wonder, is how much of that. I think the more interesting part of this, Mike, is Iowa does not look that attractive right now. I mean, they're near the bottom in NIL. We just had the story last week about the scan ticket numbers and how pathetically low the attendance is. The arena needs to be done. The attitude about what revenue share, men's basketball is going to get, because they've got a women's basketball product to feed. Obviously, football is going to get the lion's share, but what does wrestling get out of all of this? I think Iowa's in a really difficult spot right now.
Well, and for as much as we make fun of him, I thought Fran McCaffrey actually did a pretty good job for as long as he was there, is that they largely fielded competitive teams. They played into the upper echelon of the Big Ten multiple times. He's got him to the tournament, half of the time that he was there. And he did it with his own sort of unique flair, certainly his attitude, all of that towards officiating, which I actually appreciate to a degree, because I understand what he goes up against every day with Big Ten officiating. But I have often sat and watched Nebraska-Iowa games and just thought to myself, how does he pluck these guys from sort of relative obscurity? And then they have success at Iowa. Like, they're going to have to find someone who can recruit and develop and teach, because it's not a natural, like, oh, people really want to go to Iowa to play basketball. I don't think it has that sort of pull to it. So I think you're going to have to get someone who's shown that he can build a program in order for them to have success there. And I don't think it's going to be a name that's going to appear to be sexy. I just like, and I don't think Iowa basketball, I think in the pantheon of what Iowa wants to be good at, I think basketball is lower there than it is at Nebraska, if that makes sense. Which is like hard
to, football, women's basketball, wrestling,
Yeah.
I mean, those are definitely 3 sports. And I tend to agree with you.
And so then it's, are they going to be able to find someone who wants this job and can be competitive in this job? And then the reality is the Iowas, the Minnesotas, I'm trying to think of who the other team I want to use here for an example, but those 2 teams specifically, because I think there's some similarity with Nebraska. Like, they want to be good at football. They want to be good at these things. They don't have the fan support that Nebraska basketball does. They don't have the infrastructure or the facilities that Nebraska basketball does.
No.
Nebraska doesn't need to be comparing itself with Iowa or Minnesota. It needs to be above those 2 programs. And I really think Minnesota and Iowa are setting themselves up to be in the bottom tier of Big Ten basketball for a while, because they don't seem like they're going to invest in that they've made decisions to invest in other things instead.
Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. All right, Schaefer, stay safe inside, and we will talk with you next week.
All right. Well, have a good call tomorrow. First game of the NCAA tournament. How's that feel?
I know it's weird because usually we've played, we've played the first game in a site, but that was like in Denver where it was mountain time. So it was probably 3, 4, 5 games into the day. So this is very interesting, very odd.
And Pittsburgh was later. Like Pittsburgh was an evening. Yeah. And because I remember that Oregon game was like one of the last ones of the night. And
well, it didn't help that Michigan State and Oakland went to overtime, and that took a little while. But no, this is a little odd. It'll be getting up and getting right to work.
Yeah, so that'll be fun for you tomorrow. So have a great call, enjoy it, and looking forward to hearing. Especially if you start to lose it a little bit on some officiating, or if there's some bad basketball. There's nothing better than John Bishop having to wallow through a little bit of bad basketball stretch. You let us know about it. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Doesn't get much worse than watching a team make 14 straight field goals on you.
Yeah, that can be rough.
Pretty
that
rough.
Can be rough.
Mike Schaefer of Husker 24/7. All right. Speaking of March Madness, we're taking up your March Madness memories, and we've got a few that have already trickled in. And don't forget, we're giving away $50 picked at random. So don't worry about the quality of your submission. All it needs to be is in a submission. Star Wars Fiend says Bryce Drew's buzzer beater. Of course, the great Valpo shot in 1998 against Ole Miss is his favorite one. Justin says, my favorite memory was the Jalen Suggs half-court buzzer beater in overtime of the Final Four, sending Gonzaga to the national championship over UCLA. I watched this whole game with my dad, and it's one of those memories I'll have forever. There are onions, Jim, and then there are major onions with a kiss. He's quoting, of course, the great Bill Raftery. The shame of that was it happened during COVID, and there was nobody there.
No.
Can you imagine how that would have gone, how that would have been sold if it would have been a full building instead of, whatever they allowed in the building in Indianapolis. So there's a couple of examples. I have one I'll share with you as we go to break, and it's an audio daily double. But this one will warm Creighton hearts. And no, this was not one that I was involved in. I was actually at the State Boys basketball tournament doing prep for television when Creighton played Florida in 2002. And this was a moment that just celebrated its 23rd anniversary. So as we go to break, here is my predecessor on the Creighton call, T. Scott Marr, and my good friend Kevin Sarver, who stepped all over him. But here it is, Terrell Taylor, game winner versus Florida in the round of 64 as Creighton upset the Gators.
Kenny looks to get it in. Taylor, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3 on the way. And Terrell Taylor hits it. Terrell Taylor hits it with .2. There's .2 seconds remaining. Terrell Taylor. Terrell Taylor hits it. Terrell Taylor. Top of the key. 83-82. And technically, with .2 seconds. .2 seconds remaining on the clock.
Incredible.
Oh, appreciate Sar for sending that to me last week. But there's my favorite March memory, because I actually heard that in the car. I was leaving the tournament to go get some lunch, had the game on the radio, was listening to the call, and there it was. A great moment in Creighton March Madness history. But your moment can be from any team, any moment, does not matter. Keep sending ththose in. John at 1620thezone.com, Equitable Bank inbox, and we'll pick 4 of them at random to win $50 to Backlot Pizza and Pub from 1620 The Zone. But first, a quick word for my good friends at Your Home Improvement Company. And speaking of good, during the month of March, they are doing something tremendous. You can transform your bathroom, save up to 30% off a bathroom remodel. This is a great time if you're looking at upgrading your bathroom, whether it's a new walk-in shower or it's just something more modern and functional. Turn it into a spa-like retreat. Yes, save up to 30% off a bathroom remodel from YHIC and get 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 12 months. How about that for financing? So call today, Your Home Improvement Company at 402-764-1720. Schedule a free in-home consultation. They use premium USA-made materials that will look great for a lifetime. So let me repeat, Save up to 30% off a bathroom remodel and get 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 12 months. Call 402-764-1720. That's 402-764-1720. You're going to love the difference with your home improvement company. Go to YHIC.com and find out more. YHIC will exceed your expectations and make your home better. Save up to 30% off a bathroom remodel and get 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 12 months. Call today. It's 402-764-1720 and love the difference. John and Nick back with you on this very snowy Wednesday, and we hope you're being safe. I know we've got well over 90,000 people without power. In fact, I just updated the power outage map, and I think it was reading, we have restored some power. It was up over 93. Now it's back down to 91,000.
Power to the people, John.
So, well, and please, I know it's frustrating when it happens, but keep in mind, these are not great conditions for those OPPD crews to be outside working. And, that's the big issue when you get these storms like this, especially these spring storms, because these tend to be worse than the ones in the middle of the winter, because the weather's been warm. Then you get the sideways snow, you get the instant freezing, it gets on those wires, it makes them brittle, they snap. I'm not saying that's exactly the cause of all of these outages, but that's at least one of the common things that happens. So
it is a unique kind of storm too, just with all the slush. The amount of slush, John, it is like Play-Doh. It's sticking to everything.
Right. And that's the kind of stuff. I mean, the light fluffy stuff, that's fine, but the real thick, slushy stuff, that's the stuff that sticks on there. We just cleared another 4,000 people.
Oh, congrats, people.
Maybe by the end of the Grum we'll be down to 0. We can hope. Fingers crossed, but 87,000 according to OPPD currently without power. So do be safe out there. We're taking your email submissions in the JTech Construction Zone Twitter page, your favorite March Madness memories, and we're giving away 4 gift certificates at random worth $50 to Backlot Tap House, home of great Detroit-style pizza. They've got awesome smash burgers, great cocktails. We're giving away 4 at random. Here's one from Bob, who says, Charlotte, around 1994. It was the day before finals. A friend of mine joined my father and I in the main hotel, and my dad was friends with Danny Nee. We were talking with him, and my friend finally joined us wearing a Nebraska sweatshirt. Dad introduces his friend to Danny, then some small chit-chat. Then all of a sudden, Danny stops in mid-sentence, tells my friend he thought he was wearing an Arkansas sweatshirt, tells him he has huge balls wearing that sweatshirt, pretty sure he wouldn't want to wear that sweatshirt, and he's the Husker coach. To this day, my friend loves that first meeting with Danny Nee.
Incredible.
Brent says, when Kansas was acting tough against Fred Van Vliet and the Wichita State Shockers, and then proceeded to lose the game. So we got a Shocker fan there, or maybe an anti-Kansas fan. And here's another one from the archives, friends. And yes, we've got the audio. One of my most favorite memories was recent. It was the double overtime comeback thriller last year between Creighton and Oregon. I accidentally punched my fireplace in excitement when Ryan Kalkbrenner hit the 3. It also gave us this.
Alexander dribbling out some clock in front of us. 13 on the shot clock. Now looks to start his attack. Trey trying to get into the paint. Trey, step back 2. No good. Jason Green! Slam! Dunk! Jason Green! 79-71 Creighton. 2:18 to go.
Jason Green.
To this day, I still don't know how Nick and I were in that kind of sync, but we were, and yes.
You guys were amped.
Yeah. Well, I said it. I don't remember if I said it here or I said it somewhere else. That is, in the last 12 years, that is my favorite Creighton game. Is last year's Oregon game. It was so well played. The stakes, of course, were tremendously high. And just the fact you had Mac and Dana Altman, the two coaches, the one coach who brought Creighton back and made him a national name again, and the coach who took him to the next level after that. All the storylines there, just a great atmosphere, all the emotion, and just how the game was played. It was one of my favorite, it is my favorite Creighton game that I've had the pleasure to call. So again, they don't have to be Creighton memories. They don't have to be Nebraska memories. Just your favorite March Madness memories. Keep sending them in. We'll share a few more as we get further along in the program. Also, coming up in just a few seconds here, we're going to play my interview with Coach Miller, Ryan Miller, who most recently accepted the job at Murray State as their new head coach, but he's staying here with the Jays to finish out the job. We'll talk to Coach Miller about that here in just a few moments. I had a chance to catch up with him during Creighton's open practice today here at Rupp Arena. But we were talking earlier about Darren DeVries and taking the job at Indiana. That was announced late yesterday during the Grum. But DeVries going to Indiana, not to Iowa. A lot of folks thought, when that Iowa job eventually opens up, that might be a destination. Certainly a lot of Jays fans are hopeful that, the next name of who's on the door of the head coach's office after Greg McDermott retires would be Darren DeVries. But now taking the job at Indiana, and, you talk about one of the biggest jobs in college basketball, even though Indiana has not had the success recently. It is a place very similar to Nebraska that sees itself in a certain way. I'm talking Nebraska football, obviously, but sees itself in a certain way and insists that, hey, we've got to be this. We've got to keep our name here. We've got to be fighting for titles. We have to be relevant. And Indiana, like Nebraska football, has been struggling with that for the last couple of decades. It's been nearly 40 years since they won their last national championship.
Wow.
I mean, we talk about how Nebraska, it's been, 25 years-ish since they won their last national championship. It's been 20 years since they won their last conference championship. It's been almost 40 years since Indiana won its last national title under Bob Knight. And that's the kind of pressure cooker that Coach DeVries is walking into. But I tend to agree, Schaefer talked about it a moment ago. I mean, if you want to go out and just get a basketball guy and a great basketball coach, and I know I'm biased, so, take my word for what it's worth, but I've seen this man work. I've seen him up close and personal. I saw what he did at Drake. I saw what he did in 1 year at West Virginia. And there's some revisionist history. There's some West Virginia fans that are upset, and rightfully so. I get it. Even at his own introductory press conference last year, DeVries mentioned that, this is the kind of place I can see myself at for a long time. But then an opportunity like this comes up, and we don't know what the terms are yet. At least I haven't seen. I've heard some rumors as to what the terms might be. According to ESPN, he's getting a 6-year contract. There's been some really high numbers thrown out. And I mean, we're talking life-changing money here. And we're talking life-changing opportunity, because if he gets to be the guy, as difficult as this job is, as difficult as it is to try to bring Indiana back to a place where they think they should be, and then to also just to satisfy the rabid fan base that exists there, it's one of the most pressure-filled jobs in all of college sports. That is one of the hardest things to do, is to take a program that thinks of itself in a certain way, but has to operate in the new world order of college athletics. And it's a different Big Ten. The Big Ten that Bob Knight coached in was 10 teams. The Big Ten that Darren DeVries is walking into is 18 teams, and you've added some other new basketball powers. Then there's just the whole world of NIL, transfer portal, all of these different things. It's a different world. It's a different world for Indiana. And so there's a lot of pressure in this. But when you talk about a guy who's got basketball intelligence, who is a great motivator, I think, with the resources that are available, and I'm guessing in addition to the name of Indiana, in addition to whatever the big dollar figure is that he signed up for, which I'm guessing is much more than what West Virginia can afford, I'm guessing probably one of the big factors why DeVries took this job was he's going to be given every opportunity to go out and buy the best players he can, because Indiana is going to throw a lot of money at it because they have to. I mean, that's the way of the world. If you want to compete in this sport, you have to be able to do it. And Indiana's not been shy in terms of doing that. So I'm guessing those three things together, plus his coaching, moxie, is a reason why he thinks he's going to succeed there. So I applaud him for taking on this challenge. I wish him the very best of luck. He is a great dude. Tucker's going to join him. The irony is that West Virginia has to apply. I think it's how it works for his medical, because he did get injured last year. He should be eligible for a medical, but he's going to follow him on to Indiana, and we'll see where it goes. Nick, did you have a thought? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I just a couple things. The prestige of being a basketball guy, having the opportunity to coach at Indiana, like that feels like a no-brainer. I'm sure he got paid too, but I'm sure that was also a thought in the back of his head. Hey, I could coach at Indiana. That's really cool. the second thought I had was I'd be interested to see what Indiana, their athletic department looks like now with the success of SIGs in their football program.
Yeah.
How that money's going to be split. Because yes, of course they're going to want to throw money. They are a basketball powerhouse. They have been. Well, not lately, but you know what I mean. They're like a basketball blue blood. But now with the football program starting to kind of wake up, I wonder how they're going to try to balance that.
That's a great question, Nick, because everyone's going through it. Nebraska's got its own issues. How much goes to football, and then what does volleyball get, and how does men's basketball fit into the equation? We talked about Iowa a little bit earlier. A lot of these schools who have both of the money-making sports, the football and the men's basketball, how they decide to divvy up that money, because there was a report last week, or at least the story from On3, that quoted a lot of coaches around college basketball saying, what kind of money does it take to build a top 25 roster? And the numbers being thrown out there were $4, $5, $6 million. Well, remember, the revenue share maximum amount is $20.5 million. And football is going to get at least 12, 13, 14, 15. Nebraska, in some avenues, some people think Nebraska is going to demand $16 million for football out of $20.5 million. Well, do the math. And remember, the rev share is also for a lot of the other sports as well. Now, maybe some schools won't decide to share any of their revenue sharing with the non-money making sports, the baseballs, the softballs. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm sure some are going to try it. We saw the revenue share numbers on Georgia recently, and it was in the neighborhood of, $14 million for football, and then basketball was going to get a little less than $3 million, and then they had so much for women's basketball, and the rest was going to be divvied up from the other sports. Everyone's going to have a different formula, but it's that struggle of those big boy programs, whether they're a football school or a basketball school, and how much they're going to give. And Indiana's in a unique spot because now they've tasted success in football for the first time in decades. Are they going to, throw a little more money out there knowing that, hey, we've got a coach now who can, obviously take us to a playoff? Or is it, let's make Indiana basketball great again, and maybe they get more of a share of the pie? Because the more that goes to basketball, that's the less that goes to football. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that Coach DeVries got some decent assurances about what his budget was going to be, and it was obviously good enough for him. But this is going to be a real fascinating watch. And then for another reason, Darren DeVries, of course, off the Greg McDermott coaching tree, but he's also off the Dana Altman coaching tree. Mm-hmm. It was Dana Altman who hired Coach DeVries for his very first job. He was a GA before he became a full-time assistant. Well, we all know who's coaching at Oregon and who is now conference mates with Indiana. And so we will get to see the first DeVries Altman matchup in Big Ten basketball. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch as well. All right, we're going to step aside, take a quick break. When we come back, I've got some audio from earlier today here in Lexington of the Creighton Blue Jays and the Louisville Cardinals as they talked about their placement here together in the NCAA tournament. And then my conversation with Ryan Miller, who, like Coach DeVries, is coming off the Greg McDermott coaching tree and headed to Murray State. So we'll talk to Creighton's current assistant and soon-to-be new head coach at Murray State when we continue with Unsportsmanlike Conduct live from Lexington on 1620 The Zone. 1-2. Swung on and hit. Deep. Left field. Way back. Did he just walk it off? Yes, he did. Cats win. Mitchell Daly in a dog pile at home plate walks off NC State with his 7th home run of the year. Kentucky wins it 5-4. A little something for the local folks. That was our call last year on the College World Series, NCAA Radio Network. Mitchell Daly's walk-off home run against NC State. Tony Neely, who is one of the SIDs here at UK, works with baseball, wanted to come over and say hi. He wanted to tell everybody back in Omaha, as you're all freezing to death right now, how much they appreciated all of your hospitality and support. They said they had a wonderful time in Omaha. And, of course, Nick Mingione, tremendous coach. It was fun to see UK there last year in the College World Series. So maybe playing that highlight brings us a little good mojo here. Maybe Lexington owes us one, right? You know, they get a walk-off in their first game in the CWS. Maybe we get a walk-off of our own tomorrow as the Jays take on Louisville. Thanks to Tony and the folks here at UK who've done a great job of hosting us this week, and thank them for coming out. Welcome back here. We are in Lexington for the first round of the NCAA tournament, and today both teams, actually all the teams that were here, got the opportunity to speak to the media. And so we're going to have some of those highlights today from the press conferences that took place earlier today. And obviously a lot of the conversation that is going on around this particular game is the fact that Louisville, who in some estimates could have been as high as a 5 seed, a lot of places had them as a 6 seed, ended up falling all the way down to an 8 seed, despite the fact that they're a top 10 team in the AP, despite the fact that they've only had 2 losses all season in the ACC. Pat Kelsey, the head coach of the Cardinals, talked about being the 8th seed and whether or not that was going to serve as motivation for his team.
We haven't even, Blink and I don't talk about it. It's a non-issue at that point. You know, we are here and we are playing Creighton, and we have to be at our absolute best to beat Creighton. You don't need any added motivation when you have an opportunity to represent your school and your city in the national tournament. Our guys are competitors, as you know. You've seen them compete all year long. So whether, you know, the committee decided to make us a 16 seed, an 8 seed, a 4 seed, or 5 seed, we're here. And all of our attention is on, you know, trying to beat a world-class coach and a world-class team.
And, of course, the questions weren't just limited to the coach. Here is Javon Hadley of Louisville asked about the placement of 8th in the seed line.
Yeah, I mean, just right away, we're just grateful to have this opportunity. As, you know, not every team in the country gets to, you know, participate in March Madness, so we're extremely grateful. We were a little bit shocked that our name was called that early for sure. But like I said, we're just grateful to be in this place, and, you know, just – right after that, we got right to work, so we were determined right away.
None of the answers today were particularly surprising. I mean, everyone's going to say the right things, but certainly the questions had to be asked because it was one of the big talking points outside of North Carolina making the tournament in the first place. From the other perspective, certainly there were a lot of folks, and I know I talked about it the other day on the program, that, you know, you can focus on it too much if you feel like you've been screwed, and I think it can create a negative atmosphere around the team. Well, the question was asked of Ryan Kalkbrenner because the Jays thought they would be playing someone else, maybe a Memphis, maybe a Georgia, maybe a New Mexico. Instead, they get stuck with a team that, like themselves, finished second in their conference.
Personally, I know once you get to March, all you got to do is get in, and then it's anyone's game. So it didn't rile me up too much. But what is Louisville in the AP poll now? 10. So that was a little confusing to me how they end up as an 8th seed and 10th in the AP poll. But, you know, once you get to this time of year, every team is really good anyway. So at this point, it doesn't matter who you play. You got to go out there and win or go home. So I try not to get too caught up in seeding if you think you should be higher or lower or whatever.
As I said the other day, when you win a national championship, you got to go through 6 good teams. And, yeah, some draws are going to be easier than others in some years. you have to suck it up and just deal with it. You got to go out and play, and worrying about it at the end of the day, when that ball gets tipped up, the only number next to your name that matters is the score, not the little tiny digit that says what your seed is. You've got to go out and win that game and have the right attitude. Obviously, a lot of questions were going to be asked today of Chucky Edwards, or not Chucky Edwards, his teammate, Terrence Edwards, Chucky Hepburn, the former Bellevue West Thunderbird. He, too, and Terrence Edwards were both asked about the seed and about the possibility of playing here basically at home. They're only an hour away or so from campus.
Nah, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's still basketball. And we like to look at it like we're in Lexington, an hour away from Louisville, so we'll have more fans and, be able to play in front of more of our fans.
Yeah, it's kind of irrelevant once the committee select the team that you play. We have a veteran team. Someone's been here before, so we're just grateful to be able to get a bid to be able to get in the tournament. Yeah, it just like Javon said, we're just grateful to be here and play in Lexington, and our family able to drive down to the game. So, yeah, everything works out.
That's certainly, if you want to talk about a consolation prize, and I wouldn't even say it's a consolation prize, the idea that you get to play this close to home, and for those who have family in the area, it'll be perfect. Obviously, for the fans, it's perfect. At the end of the day, the seed really doesn't matter, because you're going to get a chance to do something that not a lot of teams do in the postseason. Sure, a lot of the number one seeds, they will always pick a regional that is close enough to them. Certainly, there's been years in the past, Jay certainly felt it, when Creighton had to play Duke in Philadelphia or North Carolina in Greensboro. Those were things that have already happened. So this is not an unprecedented thing. It is kind of unprecedented when you have someone as low down as an 8 seed who is playing this close to home, but it is certainly not unprecedented. Stephen Ashworth was asked about playing this game tomorrow in Rupp Arena, what is expected to be a very partisan Louisville crowd. Here's Stephen Ashworth.
In the Big East tournament, going to a site in New York City where St. John's is obviously from, and now coming to a site where obviously our opponent is very close and familiar with the arena and the city. And so there's some of those things outside of the actual game that I think have also prepared us mentally as a team to make sure that when, throughout the game we can stay together and make sure we can absorb runs and then also continue to go on our runs as a team. So I think in short, it definitely prepares us well for what March Madness brings.
Now on to the matchup. And this is going to be a game where, quite honestly, it could come down to which of the 2 point guards plays the best. That team will advance. And we talked so much during March about guard play and how important guard play is. And you've got 2 of the best guards in the country in terms of assists per game. Ashworth averages nearly 7. Chucky averages nearly 6 assists per game. They're both in the top 10 in terms of assists per game. These are guys that are relatively familiar with each other as well, as we'll talk about in just a moment. But here was Stephen Ashworth's scouting report on Omaha's Chucky Hepburn.
Yeah, obviously very talented guard. Most Omaha guards are. And he's going to be a lot of fun to go up against tomorrow, both offensively and defensively. ACC Defensive Player of the Year. And has similar feel to what Zakai Ziegler is able to do on defense. And we matched up with them in the tournament last year. And so definitely a great opportunity as a point guard to be going up against a defender like that. And then offensively, really efficient at getting to his spots and running the offense in a really well-oiled manner.
Interesting that Stephen went back to last year's Sweet 16 game against Zakai Ziegler and Tennessee as one of the comps. I've heard Greg McDermott describe Chucky as one of the best point guards in the country. And the thing about Chucky that is so impressive is his defensive acumen has always been there. He has always been a really good on-ball defender, but his offensive numbers have really taken a jump up. He had his moments in 3 years at Wisconsin, but this year he's one of 4 Louisville players who have scored at least 30 in a game. We talked about the assists. His point average is up Last year, it was in the upper single digits. This year, it's, around 15 points a game. Three-point shooting is a little hit and miss, but he can be very streaky. He's a low 30s three-point shooter, but you still have to respect it. But it's going to be the defense that I think is going to carry the day here. And what I'll be fascinated to watch is how Ashworth handles a guy like Chucky, who does a pretty good job of defending without getting too handsy, doesn't usually commit a whole lot of fouls. And whether or not the experience, whether it was against a Ziegler last year or against Marquette's Stevie Mitchell, who has been considered one of the best on-ball defenders in the Big East Conference. And if there's comps there, and if there's things that Ashworth can take from the experience of playing Mitchell that can carry over to playing Chucky Hepburn. But I truly believe that the point guard who gets the better of the other on both ends of the floor is probably going to tell us a lot about who wins this game. Meanwhile, we heard from Ashworth on Chucky. Now, here's Chucky Hepburn on Stephen Ashworth.
In transition.
Sorry about that. Didn't have it queued up to the beginning. Here is Chucky Hepburn.
He's a great guard. He never stops running. That's one thing about him. Even in the open gym when we play, he's just constantly moving. So, that's where we're going to have to keep our focus at because, if we lose focus on him, he can get away from us in an instant. And, he knocks threes down from NBA range and beyond that. So we just got to know where he's at all times and, be able to stop him in transition.
Yes, these two have faced each other, but it wasn't in actual game competition. It was in pickup ball. They did play some pickup games against each other last year in Omaha. Obviously, Chucky coming home to see his family, and Stephen already being here with his wife and his young son. So they actually have played. It's kind of like that scene in Rocky 3 where you see Rocky and Apollo at the very end. We never know what happens at the end. Well, we're going to find out tomorrow if there's any residual effects from those earlier summer pickup games between those two. Let's talk a little bit more about this matchup. And here was Jemiah Neal on what kind of style he expects to see from Louisville.
Their play style, they have kind of like a sense of nastiness to them, especially on defense as far as how they play, being in gaps, being able to rake, being able to speed teams up and stuff like that. And on offense, I would say their guards are very patient. They have a complex offense where it has a lot of flares and screens, and it's definitely going to be a challenge. But I think, like Steven said, I think the strength of our schedule has kind of prepared us for things like this, and now it's time to just go out there and perform.
And then finally, here is Louisville's coach and the ACC Coach of the Year, Pat Kelsey, talking about the challenge of facing Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Potentially the best lob threat in the country. He can score in the post. He's got touch around the rim. I mean, you name it. 4-time Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East, All-American, decorated as all get out. You mentioned James as a matchup. You got to guard him with all 5 guys, which is hard to do because they got other really, really good players. One's one of the best point guards in the United States of America with range when he gets off the bus. They got a bunch of other guys with range when they get off the bus. So, when that name popped up on the screen and we knew we had Creighton, I was like, whew. I'm a Xavier grad and a Xavier guy, so I keep my eye on, the Big East and things like that. And, I know how good they are. So, we have our hands full. And
it's going to be interesting to see how Louisville decides to defend Kalkbrenner. They've got 2 guys that they have played at the 5 position this year. James Scott is the 6'11 sophomore who's more the traditional post player. He's got several dunks. He'll be wearing a mask. He'll be easy to point out because he will be the one wearing a mask. He actually suffered a facial fracture and lost a couple of teeth in a game against Miami a month ago. So he's more the traditional post player. But then you've also got the potential of bringing Noah Waterman into the game. This is the transfer from BYU, 6'11", 230. He's a 6th-year player. But he is a guy who can pop out and at least threaten you from 3. He's not a great three-point shooter. He's sub 30%, but just the threat of that. We've seen teams at times try to go 5 wide on Creighton just to pull Kalkbrenner away from the rim. So does Kelsey interchange these 2 guys? Does he lean on one guy over the other? We'll see how that plays out because certainly how Ryan Kalkbrenner goes has been a great barometer for Creighton. So there's some of the audio from today from the open practice session. We'll, of course, have a lot more on this matchup tomorrow. 10 a.m. pregame here on 1620 The Zone with Blue Jay shoot around. Then myself and Ross Ferrarini will take over here from courtside at Rupp Arena at 10:45 with tip-off at 11:15. And another reminder, folks, all the games on the Zone exclusively, no longer on the Keg, just on 1620 The Zone exclusively. And if you want to catch us on audio stream, we are not allowed to stream on 1620thezone.com or the Zone mobile app, but we are able to stream courtesy of the Varsity Network. So go to thevarsitynetwork.com or download the Varsity Network app wherever you go in your app store, and you'll be able to hear not only our call of Creighton games, all of the Westwood One calls, all of the other local radios, Gary's call, streaming of the Omaha game against St. John's tomorrow night, all of it available from thevarsitynetwork.com or download the Varsity Network app. When we come back here to Louisville, my conversation with Ryan Miller, the new head coach at Murray State and the former Creighton assistant who is not terribly anxious to take over his new job just quite yet. He says he's got 3 more weekends left in him. We'll find out next. That as we continue from Kentucky and the site of the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament that you'll be able to hear from start to finish right here on 1620 The Zone. John and Nick back with you here in Lexington for the first round of the NCAA tournament. Let's get an OPPD power outage update. We are at, it came down by a couple more thousand. We're now at just under 86,000 people without power in the Douglas, Sarpy, Washington, Saunders County areas. So hang in there, folks.
To OPPD for working so hard today.
They are working their tails off today.
They really are.
And it is not easy. And that's why Josh isn't with us today, because he is one of the he's one of the few, the proud, the 85,809 without power.
Oof.
Right now, as he is stuck at home and there's no electricity. Mike Sauter coming up, by the way, from Hurrdat Media. We're going to talk Omaha and St. John's. You'll be able to hear Gary's call tomorrow night on News Talk 1290 as the Mavericks play in their first ever men's NCAA tournament game against the Big East champions. Been there, done that. Good luck, Mavs. Good luck. Let's get a couple more responses here because we are still taking your emails. And remember, doesn't matter, good or bad, send us an email. Tell us what your favorite March Madness memory is. And we've got $50 to Backlot Pizza and Tap if you are selected at random. Alex says, my favorite memory of March Madness was the heyday years of Greg Marshall at Wichita State. It was great watching a team in Kansas, not named Kansas or Kansas State, win. Those were the days. So another Shocker fan out there. We don't have many Shocker fans around here anymore. Let's see. Tony, this may be too corny or too new, but my favorite memory is watching Omaha finally punch their ticket to the big dance. Omaha is my alma mater. Seeing them make it over after a decade of waiting was incredible. My favorite part was watching them get in with my 14-year-old son and seeing him get into it as much as I was. Thanks. Love the show. Congrats, Tony. Hopefully tomorrow night the Mavs will make you a tournament memory.
Also, Tony, that's not corny at all. That's what every college basketball fan dreams of.
Chuck's favorite memory, we got another audio daily double here. When Dougie McBuckets dropped 30 on Lafayette, I was positive they were going to the Final Four. Oh, Doug McDermott, you say. Is that what you'd like to hear? Of course. Why not? I've got the audio and I can play it, so here it is.
13 on the shot clock, 12. Still it's Chapman with 10, with 9. Now stops on the dribble. Gives to McDermott. McDermott looks to drive into the lane. Wow! It up and in. Doug McDermott putting on the hard hat. And it's a 9-point game with 1:06 to go.
Sadly, though, it did not end up in the Final Four. They ran into something called the Baylor Bears. But there you go. So a few more memories. Send yours in, and we will pick 4 of them at random to win those $50 gift cards to Backlot. Now, here's my conversation. Earlier today, during the open practice, Ryan Miller, new head coach at Murray State, but he's sticking around to help the Jays try to get through the NCAA tournament. Here's that conversation from earlier out on the court.
Talking with the new head coach of the Murray State Racers. Has it sunk in yet, Ryan Miller? That title now is on you?
Well, it hasn't necessarily sunk in that I'm the head coach of the Murray State Racers, but I have unfinished business here. So I'm going to be the associate head coach at Creighton Blue Jays for hopefully another 3 weeks.
That's a good answer, of course. So what's it been like trying to balance your time right now? Because obviously you have to look ahead to what's going on, but at the same time focus on what we've got in front of us this weekend.
For sure. I just try to stay singular focused, which is right now is the Creighton Blue Jays. Obviously, I got to plan forward a little bit, but I've already hired a couple staff members that are in Murray hitting the ground running. So if I have things that are happening with Murray, I just forward it onto them, and I just try to stay singular focused and stay in this moment right here, right now, which is with the Creighton Blue Jays in Lexington, Kentucky.
You talked about the 2 guys that you hired. Did you keep anyone from the old staff?
I kept someone from the old staff. Brendan Mullins is actually his brother, coaches at DePaul. I've known him for a long time, does a great job. So he'll be able to give me the ins and outs of Murray State athletics because I've never been to Murray one day in my life. So it'll be interesting to get there and get my feet on the ground and see what we're working with.
Was that kind of hard to go through an interview process where you're not literally physically on campus?
It is kind of because you just haven't been there before, but, talking to the AD, Nico, which he's very progressive, very outside the box thinking, very in the new age of college athletics and where it's going with NIL, transfer portal. He laid out a really good vision for me, a vision I could be excited about, and a vision that made a lot of sense to me to go into the Missouri Valley Conference a league that they are 2 years in, to try to bring our vision that we've kind of done here and the culture we created here and bring it there to Murray State.
You talk about the culture you want to bring there. Obviously, you've been around us for 4 years, but you've been to a lot of other places. You've had a lot of experience. You've been around this game for a long time. What's going to be the Ryan Miller culture at Murray State?
Well, obviously, I'm going to use the background of all these great coaches, all these great players I've been around, whether it's from Memphis, Coach Calipari, Dixon, TCU, Alfred, New Mexico. All these great coaches, great players have been around basically my whole adult life. Obviously, the culture that obviously I'm really going to incorporate. And the reason I came to Creighton 4 years ago is because Mac's vision of the game is very close to the way I look at the game and how to build a team. So that's why I left. I was associate coach at TCU, had an awesome job. Two things were work for Coach Mac, his system and culture, and be close to the home. So those two things really were the driving influence. So a lot of those things and how Mac saw the game is very similar to how I saw the game. And being able to learn it the last 4 years is kind of the culture that I'll really emphasize when I get down to Murray State.
Will the style of play kind of look what we've been doing here at Creighton?
Yes. Again, one of the reasons I came here because I love the style of play, the analytical-driven style. We love layups, love dunks. Don't like a lot of mid-range twos, contested twos. We're going to shoot a lot of threes. Those type of things I really like. And then defensively, the same thing. Then don't break defense. Be physical, be tough. Send people in the mid-range twos. Get them off the three-point line. The same things that we've kind of incorporated here is kind of the same things I envision myself coaching and teaching at Murray.
Of course, this is the part of it that you do a little more than you did at Creighton, and that's the media side of it. Are you ready for that?
Well, obviously, as you step up levels to the business, there's more media and there's more scrutiny, right? So we'll just be on top of our game and be able to handle the media, and we'll just have to, balance our time effectively so we can keep the main thing, which is our program, our players, and how we coach them every single day.
Obviously, a lot of people are going to ask questions about Mason, your nephew. How are you going to go about those types of conversations? And are the conversations different with someone you're related to versus another player who might be considering transferring or transferring in?
Yeah, obviously with his family, it's a little different. Expectations and maybe a little bit higher. But Mason, again, we're going to stay singular focused with him. Like, we play a game in 12, 15, or whatever it is tomorrow, and hopefully he's the best version of himself, and I'm the best coaching version of myself, and we'll worry about those when time comes, which will be hopefully in 3 weeks down the road.
When you played, did you ever go through a stretch where it was, as tough as it's been for Mason this year, and any advice that you've had for him? I know he's talked to his dad many times.
As a player, I really haven't, but I never had the injury, though. He had the injury going that summer that really put him behind. And then he started off missing a lot of shots early in the year and the scrutiny and everything of missing those shots. And what I was very proud of him about more than anything, he couldn't throw the ball in the ocean this year, but he kept playing and was impacted the game different ways and played winning basketball different ways. The game at UConn where he locked up Caravan for 30 minutes was impressive. Even when you're not making shots, we try to teach all of our guys that, the ball game's not all about scoring sometimes. Sometimes you have to put your footprint on the game and put your impact on the game by making winning plays. And he was able to do that well. What he's known for, shooting the ball, was really not there for him this year.
Going back to Murray State, that's a program with a good tradition, a lot of NCAA tournament bids. How much of that factored into your decision to go there?
It impacted a lot of the decision because obviously there's a winning culture there, and the expectations are high. Our RAD, Nico, has a strong vision of what this looks like, and it's a championship culture. And everything starts from the top and works its way to the bottom, right? So if you have administrative and leadership at the top that's really supportive and really, especially in this new age, like you have to have a partnership with the NIL stuff, this transfer portal stuff. There has to be a partnership between the president, the AD, and the university and what they want their athletic programs to look like, and particularly with me, obviously, the men's basketball program. So that partnership is really, really important.
Obviously, in this day and age, it is all about NIL. It's about revenue share and, getting the kids what they've earned. How difficult is that in a mid-major job like a Murray State versus what it is here at Creighton?
Obviously, they don't have the revenue as Power 5 or Power 6 programs out there. So you have to really lean on your administration to be able to raise funds. You have to really lean on your investors. We call them investors. We don't even call them boosters because you're investing in a program now.
Yeah.
And we got to really rely on our investors in our program to really make those investments so Murray State athletics and Murray State basketball can be successful, because if you don't have NIL, you don't have a program.
Let's get to tomorrow's game, because that's obviously your primary focus this week. It was certainly a tough draw. When you look at Louisville, first thing that stands out that we have to stop is what?
Well, we have to stop Chucky Hepburn. I mean, he's one of the best point guards in the country defensively. I mean, he is involved in every play, whether he scores or facilitates for others. Defensively, they're going to get up in you, and they're going to pressure, and they're going to cause a lot of turnovers. We got to really have really good ball security. We can't turn the ball over. Those things are going to be really important. As you watch the game tomorrow, if we're turning the ball over, we have sloppy play, and they're taking those things over to transition on the other side of the court. We're going to have some problems. And then we have to control Chucky Hepburn and their shooter that's been out for a while, number 6.
Yeah. Is there a team that they're most comparable to that we've seen this year?
I think they're similar to UConn a little bit. They got some shooting. They hard hedge ball screens. They're in the gap, poking and raking at the ball. Very similar to UConn, I would say.
Coach, congratulations on the assignment, but I hope we're still here together 2 weeks from now in San Antonio.
Yeah, I appreciate everything. I appreciate the community of Omaha. Appreciate your relationship, John, and hopefully we're here for a long, long time. No question. I don't want to move to Murray anytime soon.
All right, that is Ryan Miller earlier today. He's headed to Murray State. Chance to catch up with him on the court. Coming up next, he's waiting in the green room. Mike Sauter will give us the skinny on how the Mavs can try to make that path to upsetting St. John's. Mike Sauter of Hurrdat Media joins us next as we are live here in Lexington for the NCAA tournament on 1620 The Zone. Welcome back. Well, for the first time in history, Omaha's got 2 teams in the NCAA tournament. The Creighton Blue Jays here in Lexington, where I am, and our next guest, the hardest working man in local media, Mike Schaefer. Don't shake your head, brother. You know it's true.
I don't like
PowerPoint, man. You are a sick man, but we appreciate the time here this afternoon, Mike.
I don't like that, but whatever you want to call me. I've been called worse, so it's okay. Yeah, no, I did show you the Mike's giant coverage sheet once, I believe. Yeah. Tomorrow, actually, tomorrow.
You were sick.
You
were sick.
Tomorrow will actually be game number 70 of Division I college basketball that I will cover in person, and that's just obviously all the local Division I programs: Omaha, Nebraska, Creighton, and then Nebraska women and Creighton women. I dabbled with a little bit too. So, yeah, 70 games, and it'll be 57 in person.
How big is this for Omaha when you look at the big picture, not just basketball, but for the Omaha athletics? Because this is going to be the biggest stage this school has been on, at least in the modern era. I can think way back in the late 70s when, there was some regional television of Omaha football on ABC, but this is a whole different world now. How big is this moment for the Mavericks?
Yeah, it's pretty huge, and they have leaned all the way into the trash can thing. By the way, that just happened like organically, so it wasn't like they planned it at first. Now there's been some planning as it's gone on, but they've leaned into that, and it's worked. I mean, I do have to say, Jordan, the associate athletic director, Sarnoff, for Omaha, he's very connected. He's with his time at FDU, and he was if people remember, Jordan was the guy that they highlighted when FDU made their run, and he was like the student that was their SID because they didn't have anyone. That's Jordan. And so he's working for Omaha right now, and he's done a tremendous job of reaching out and building those connections. And it's one of those things where if they win or lose tomorrow, it's still been a massive win or thing for Omaha and the University and the city and all of those things. Hopefully they see a little bump in, it's one of those things where like as you see a little bump in enrollment and all that stuff. So they've done a really good job, and they frankly, they have a nice team.
Yeah.
I mean, you're up against it, right? St. John's, John, you've seen up close and personal twice. Pretty good. So I'm not sure how that matches up. I did a little Ken Palming today, and St. John's has the number 1 defense in the country, and Omaha has the number 97th offense in the country. That doesn't really work very well if you look at those numbers, offensive and defensive efficiency, but they're having fun. And I think everyone kind of understands that if they can somehow get it in or get it done, then that would be massive, to be honest. Like, it would be unbelievable. It'd be the upset of the tournament.
Mike Schaefer of Hurrdat joining us here as he is covering the Mavs this week. Obviously, to me, beating St. John's, there are 2 things that are going to be critical: offensive rebounds, limiting damage off turnovers. We certainly saw it in the Big East final. The limiting damage off turnovers was the thing that did Creighton in. They actually held their own on the offensive glass, I thought, fairly well in Madison Square Garden. But the Mavs come in, they're 19th in defensive rebound rate. Granted, that was mainly against Summit League competition. How do you think they're going to best be able to try to at least create a stalemate on the offensive glass to give them that shot?
Yeah, they're just going to have to get under guys and really box out, like throw your butt into somebody and box out. I watched St. John's practice about 15 minutes ago. The size difference is ridiculous. That isn't it. So they're going to have to either knock down shots, which they're capable of doing, Omaha is, or they're going to have to really box out and hope that officials don't know the rules and call over the back, because it's not an actual foul. It's, over the back is not in the rule book. But maybe that's it. I don't know. Everything I've read, seen, looked at, numbers wise, it's going to be a major uphill battle. I will say I was in the building when Norfolk State beat Missouri in a 15-2 matchup in Omaha. So you never know, but it does feel like it's going to be a really big challenge. And guys like Tony Osborne's going to have to knock down shots. Lance Waddle's going to have to come in and take care of the ball and also knock down shots. Markel Sutton's going to have to really play really, really well. He's Summit League Player of the Year for a reason. He's a nice player, good player, but St. John's can throw, 5 different guys at him that all are more athletic maybe and bigger and stronger and taller and all that. So knocking down shots and maybe hoping St. John's turns it over themselves or shoots like 20%, something. I don't know. Like it's going to have to be it's a chasm, right? It's a big gap.
One of the guys you didn't mention, but J.J. White, you look at his numbers. He had 29 in the win over St. Thomas in the Summit final. Seems like he's kind of a barometer guy where if he plays well or scores well, they win. If they don't, like, for example, their last loss against St. Thomas got held scoreless in that game. How do you think they can best get him open? Because he is one of the better 3-point shooters they have as well.
Yeah, he has the ability to shoot over the top and make shots over taller, longer guys. I remember numerous times in my brain, I'm just reliving how he's done it. And even in the Summit League semis in Sioux Falls, and then even games throughout the year that I watched and covered Omaha, of he just catch and shoot, even with a hand up, and he would make it. So he's going to have to do some of that. He's also 100% their primary ball handler. He's their point guard. There have been times where he's turned it over at a high rate, but there's also been times where he's had 22 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds, and 1 turnover in a game. Now that pressure is a little bit different, but he's going to have to play at that level in order for them to win the game. He's going to have to be. He's absolutely the key. As far as positional matchups go, that's one where you can point to and you're like, yeah, we might have a little bit of an advantage there, because they don't in the post. And Markel's a good player, and Cam Thomas is going to have to play well, but JJ is going to have to be huge and key. He was pretty focused today. Like everyone else was having fun and stuff, and he was pretty locked in. So we'll see how he does, but he's going to have to pull off one of those like less than 3 turnovers.
And I was going to ask you about that, Sot, was, because sometimes these open practices can be a little loosey-goosey. It's not a real practice because obviously you're not practicing plays or sets that you're going to run in the game because it is open. But you can kind of get a sense, similar to how you can watch a team in warm-ups before a game, as to how well they are locked in. How did you read Omaha being on this stage, being there on the floor at the AMP for the first time, and whether or not that gives you any insight into how well they're going to be ready for tomorrow night?
Yeah, I thought that they obviously they didn't like practice. It was a walkthrough or shoot around or whatever you want to call it. But not a walkthrough because they weren't doing anything on St. John's. They were just getting shots up and layup lines and drills and things. And they had already practiced earlier today at Providence. So this was just okay, we're here in front of fans. We have to do this thing. So that's how everyone always treats those. So it's not that big of a deal. But they were loose and having fun. I don't think they're too uptight. We'll see tomorrow. Like if St. John's gets off to like a 6-0 run or 8-0 run or something, like, not good. So they're going to have to start fast. But today they were pretty loose. I nothing really different from being around these guys basically all season. I've covered 16 of their games this year, and they're very similar. So there was no uptight or anything like that. Tony Osborne was out there joking around and shooting shots and making shots. They had half court like challenge shots that didn't go in, a lot of them, and some did. And when one did, they cheered. So I think they're pretty loose and pretty excited for this moment. I do know the administration is very excited for this moment because obviously what it means to just the program in general.
Mike, I got to ask you what your thoughts are on D-Rock going to Indiana and how big that is, because a lot of folks thought of the jobs that were open in the Big Ten Conference, the natural fit was going to be Iowa. But certainly the resources there are not the same as they are at Indiana. What did you think when you saw this news?
Yeah, I was a little surprised because, like you know D-Rock. Like, I know D-Rock. Everyone, in Omaha, I feel like everyone in Omaha in the basketball community knows D-Rock. So he's said for years Iowa's his dream job. And when that opened, it was like he was the number one guy you thought of for that job, even though he was at West Virginia. Going back home and doing all that. I mean, D-Rock is a Iowa football fan. He has been his whole life. So it was one of those where bang. But then when you look at the money, obviously for him and the NIL money and stuff, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Indiana is a better job, frankly. I love D-Rock. He's awesome. And he will always, I guess, consider him a friend. And I've had long conversations with him at AAU basketball tournaments and sitting there watching random players play. So I am very happy for him. And obviously Tucker played in Omaha and covered him a lot too. And how has he got eligibility left? That's what I want to know.
Well, he could get a medical because they only played 8 games that he played. So he still has the ability to get a medical.
Right. And it's a good, start for, you have that guy come in with you. He's a pretty good player. So that's a good start for them. But I'm happy for him. I think it's a good fit. Obviously, it's a bigger job than West Virginia. There's a ton more pressure than anywhere he's been. But I think he'll be able to handle it. I think he'll do a good job. He works hard and knows the game. He's a good coach and a good guy. He's pretty connected throughout the country now as far as AAU circles and different recruiting circles that he needs to be in. And he did a good job in his first year of kind of rebuilding West Virginia. So I think he'll do another one at Indiana, even though there's already been, like, Malik Renew went immediately to the portal. So we'll see about
it didn't take long at all.
No.
Mike Sauter of Heard That. You got anything planned tonight?
No, so there's a handful of Omaha media people here. Me, Wilson Moore from the World Herald, and then Lauren from Channel 7 and Grace from, I think, WOWT.
Channel 6.
Here, Channel 6. So maybe something. I don't know. Maybe Gary.
If you're looking for a good Italian place, Casarino's downtown is the place we always go when we visit Providence. So.
I need dinner. I'm hungry. I didn't eat lunch. So I am
good Italian food, Casarino's.
I'm staying 2.5 blocks from the arena. So I definitely need
you're pretty close then. You're pretty close.
I did get Dunkin' this morning from like downtown place. And I'm a big Dunkin' guy, coffee guy. That's my place. And I was like, whoa, I'm in like the home of Dunkin' right now. This is going to be amazing. And it tasted like I got it from home.
It tastes like the Dunkin' you get at home.
Right.
But it is kind of sad that Omaha gets to finally play in the dunk and they don't call it the dunk anymore. It's now the amp.
Yeah, I think we'll just continue to call it the dunk. I'll probably slip up and do that tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Read his great work. Heard That Media, hardest working man in local media, Mike Sauter. Mike, we really appreciate it. Thanks. Enjoy the coverage. Hope you have a long weekend there because you don't want to go back home. Apparently, it's really bad right now.
My wife sent me a text of my dog and kids outside for a little bit today, and I was like, yeah, I'm good on the 65 and sunny in Providence.
Same here. We got about the same weather here, 65 and sunny in Lexington.
Yeah.
So take care. Have a good one.
Man. Yep.
Mike Sauter of Her Dat Sports joining us here on Unsportsmanlike Conduct. It is a Dumb Debates Wednesday, and I should mention the show's a little shorter tonight because we are going to bring you coverage of the first four. American University versus Mount St. Mary's is coming up at 5:30, followed by Texas and Xavier as our coverage of the NCAA tournament continues on the stations of the Zone. So coming up next, it's Dumb Debates time, 402-951-1620. You can still send in your dumb debates, by the way, into the JTech Construction Zone Twitter page. Use the hashtag Dumb Debates or email the Grum, John at 1620thezone.com, and just put Dumb Debates in the subject line. We'll get to some of those debates and have more of the Grum from Kentucky right after this on 1620 The Zone. Of course, everybody who is in this big tournament has had to rely on great support from their fans. And that support extends to support for the players in the form of name, image, likeness, NIL. Well, On the Line is an Omaha-based company that is here to help make that connection between the fans and the players and help your favorite school recruit and retain the best college athletes. And here's how it works. On the Line has partnered with all three major Nebraska Division I institutions. Of course, Creighton and Omaha, both in the tournament, and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Here's how you can make your difference. Go to athleticsontheline.com. That's athleticsontheline.com. Pick that favorite school, then pick a measurable metric. Maybe you're watching the basketball this weekend. Maybe you pick block shots. Maybe you just pick raw tournament wins. Or if you're looking further ahead to baseball or football season, home runs, could be touchdowns. Then you assign a dollar amount to that measurable metric. And for every time that metric hits, that becomes your donation to your favorite school's NIL. It's just a fun way to turn product on the court or on the field into something tangible for those players. Think of it as you rewarding your team when your team rewards you. So again, go to athleticsontheline.com. That is athleticsontheline.com and gamify your giving today. Help your favorite school win with On the Line. athleticsontheline.com.
It'd be nice to have a boat.
Throw.
It would be nice to have a boat.
Throw.
It would be nice to have a boat.
Throw.
It would be nice to have a boat.
Throw.
It would be nice to have a boat.
Throw.
It would be nice to have a boat.
Throw.
It would be nice to have a boat.
Throw.
It would be nice to have a boat.
Throw.
From your mom.
Listen, listen not to, we did anyway, dumb debating.
John's computer sucks, Macs are the only way, dumb debating.
Fullbacks are running backs, hamburger steaks.
Josh is too dumb to eat a cupcake.
Mayo in a base.
Does John like Nebraska or Creighton?
Just three radio hosts on air, dumb debating. Die for the pylon or give up on the plate, dumb debating.
Millennials are great and old should go away, dumb debating.
Rarely do we find any common ground.
Josh wants his food to be the best around.
Even if it gives him fatal flatulation.
Just three radio hosts on air, dumb debating. When a tree falls down and nobody's around, you can bet your ass it won't make a sound. Water ain't wet, you know nothing about hydration. Just three radio hosts on air, dumb debating. Just three radio hosts on air, dumb debating.
It is Dumb Debates. We have reached that time of week on Wednesday where you get to take over the grum by sending us your questions, your quandaries, the things that you have argued with and probably started fights with over the dinner table or over the water cooler. Not that people really do things over the water cooler anymore. It's probably more online because now people just sign up anonymously on Twitter, X, or some other social media platform and then go after each other. Wherever you find these dumb debates, bring them to us and we'll debate them openly with no anonymous names. You can see us, you can hear us, you know who it's talking, you know who's talking about it. You know, these are the healthy kind of debates, the dumb debate.
You know, we have a water cooler here, John. I bet water cooler debates still happen. Dumb debates.
The only debate that happens over our water cooler is when someone fails to replace the water cooler with another fresh jug. Otherwise, I don't see conversations actually happening over the water cooler.
We should bring it back. Make water coolers conversation again.
I guess we could. Well, this is your chance. So send us your, and even if we don't get to yours today, we save them all. I've got many saved over from previous weeks, and we get to them around the bend eventually. But anytime one pops into your head, send it to us. JTech Construction Zone Twitter page. Use the hashtag Dumb Debates. That's at USC1620 is our Twitter handle, or you can send it to us in the Equitable Bank inbox, John at 1620thezone.com. At Equitable, we take banking personally, answer the phone on the first ring. As you may have noticed, Josh has not been here today because he is one of the 90-some-odd thousand people who have lost power today. He was also stuck and couldn't get here. Of course, he brought this on himself for cursing us with this damned weather in the first place.
Never talk about weather on the radio. I learned that in college. I got my ass chewed in college whenever I talk about weather on the radio.
Unless you have an AMS seal of approval or you are a trained professional, do not talk about weather on the radio because you're just going to make it worse for the rest of us.
True.
All right, so let's get to some of the dumb debates this week. I'm going to go with this one because it is very timely, and it has to do with the NCAA tournament.
Oh, fun.
So the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, games start around 11 a.m. Central Time. 11:15 Central to be specific, featuring your Creighton Blue Jays right here on 1620 The Zone. The last game ends around midnight. Would you rather live in Hawaii and have the game start at 6 a.m. and end around 7 p.m., or live in Bermuda when the games start at 1 p.m. but don't end until 2 a.m.? Now, I can speak from experience. I have been, thanks to Creighton basketball, to both of these places and have experienced watching sports, sports here in the contiguous 48, outside of the contiguous 48. As much as I hate East Coast time, There is a time zone worse than the East Coast. It's called the Atlantic time zone, and that's where Bermuda is. So, no, I will definitely not answer that. I would much rather get up at 6 a.m., as I have done the last 2 days, to watch my baseball team lose and have the games end around 7 o'clock versus waiting until 1, but not getting to go to bed until 2 a.m., because especially if your team's playing in those last games, it is hard after your team has won or lost for you to go to bed at 2 a.m. So I will pick Hawaii if I had to pick between the two.
So where I'm at on this, let's just pretend for a second that I will glue my ass to a chair or a couch and watch basketball for that long. I feel like starting at 1 p.m. is the better option because I have the entire morning to get things done. So then I don't have to worry about it being too late to do anything at 7 p.m. Because at 7 p.m., you're not going to want to go out. You're not going to want to do anything. All your motivation is just going to be dead.
Fair.
I can stay up until 2 a.m., especially if it's something that I'm that invested in. I could do it. I would rather do that.
You make a good point. I guess I'm just so, with the we've combined the daylight savings time change with being on the East Coast for what it seems like the last 3 weeks with Creighton basketball, that I am just so against the time being an hour later than it should be that I'm probably just time pilled right now. So I'm just going to pick anything that's earlier. But you do make a good point because yes, you could get more things done. And there is something, when you're in Hawaii, and so we were there, 3 years ago on Thanksgiving for the Maui Invitational, and it was weird to be watching the last game of the triple header of Thanksgiving football, and the sun was setting. Actually, the sun hadn't even set yet in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And so you still had 3-4 hours of evening, and all the football was gone.
Well,
so it was kind of depressing.
It was weird enough when we were in Vegas this last time and we were watching football and it started at 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Doug. Thanks for the email.
Plus,
here is, go ahead.
Well, if you do start it at 1 p.m., you can get some of the honey-do list knocked out so your partner doesn't get mad at you for just sitting on your ass all day, not doing anything. You buy a little goodwill with that time slot, too.
Yeah, you do. Let's see. Husker Fan for Life always gives us some interesting dumb debates. Here is his.
Okay.
You're at a coffee shop, and the stranger next to you asks you to watch his laptop while he uses the restroom. You agree because you're a good Midwesterner. But, oh, no, he's been gone for over 10 minutes, and you need to leave.
Oh.
It's now over 15 minutes, and you need to go now, and he has still not returned. What is the longest amount of time you are obligated to watch this person's laptop? And we're gonna preface this, Nick, with the fact that you didn't establish any time parameters when that person asked you to watch the laptop. He just said, hey, can you watch this laptop for me? And you say yes, and that's it. That's where the conversation ends. So, being the good Midwesterner, what is an acceptable amount of time before you absolutely have to leave?
Well, coffee shops tend not to be too big, right?
No, not usually.
So if I was in this situation and 15 minutes had passed and I really have to go, I guess I would either ask another person to watch the laptop so I can leave, or I take
the martyr baton.
I take the laptop with me. I shut it. It's not my business what's in there. And I go to the bathroom, provided this person is my same gender. And I'm like, hey, I gotta go. Are you okay?
Well, but what if they, let's say for argument's sake, you don't know exactly, maybe they had to leave the premises.
Oh, geez.
And go to another store. It's in a strip mall or whatever. So you can't find the person. I think you're on to something though, Nick, because I think that's when you pass the baton and you say, listen, this person asked me to watch the laptop. Could you watch it for me? But And I guess if we want to go even further and say, for further argument's sake, let's say you're the only people in the building outside of the employees. I would say if you absolutely have to go, you are under no obligation. There was no contract signed that if you got to go, you got to go.
Yeah,
I would think more than 10 minutes. If someone's gone more than 10 minutes, they probably should have taken the laptop with them.
Yeah, and that's kind of a D move, too, if you know you're going to be gone for a long time. Tony brings up a good point. You just take it to the front counter. Yeah, I guess you could do that. That makes sense. But the Midwest nice brain takes over. It's like, oh, this guy asked me personally to watch his laptop. I can't fail this person.
What if you're one of those coffee places though, where they got like everything barricaded and they don't let you do anything? They said, "Oh no, we don't take responsibility for this."
Those places
then what
are
do you
the
do?
worst. I go back to my first option where I just tap another person and be like, "Hey, excuse me."
Yep, it's time to hand over the martyr baton.
They're also bound by Midwest Nice to keep guard over the laptop. It's just a chain of nice.
Let's see. Man, I got a lot. We're going to have to get to one for Husker Fan for Life every week because I got a lot of his archived.
He's got good ones.
He does. He usually does. Oh, boy. Here comes another one of those terrible things. These terrible options that we have to choose from. It's from Jeff. Jeff says, you have to pick one. Eat the hair from a stranger's drain trap or flatten puppies with a steamroller.
Ah! What? Okay, John, on my way into the office this morning, I was out there on Capitol, and there was, there's slush everywhere, and there was a bird in the middle of the road that, was trying to fly but couldn't because it's slush and birds aren't built for that.
Right.
I swerved almost into this other person's yard slowly just so I wouldn't hit this tiny bird with my truck.
Okay, that's one thing. It's another. So what you're basically making the argument that there is no way in your being that you would ever flatten puppies with a steamroller. So now you have to eat the hair out of a stranger's drain trap. I would argue it doesn't even need to be a stranger's drain trap. Just the thought of that. I don't know how many of you have cleaned out drain traps. If you're a homeowner, you probably have. That is the sickest, grossest, slimiest gunk of hair and soap and whatever other things may have gone down the drain you could possibly imagine. I mean, this is gross scale 10.
And I also, one of my least favorite things in the world is anything in a drain trap. I hate that.
It is
so much.
I get grossed out just cleaning the dang thing. The thought of eating the substance from it.
I get grossed out by wet hair that's not in the drain trap. I get grossed out by wet hair that's just in the shower. I hate that. But I don't want to flatten.
Why are our listeners so disgusting? Why are our listeners always put us in these moral quandaries where there is no winner?
Theo says this is a serial killer question. It is, Theo. You're right. This is a horrible question.
This is a terrible question.
But the good news is I can throw up if I eat the drain trap thing. I can't take back flattening puppies. Once they're flat, they're flat.
What if they were really bad puppies?
John, it's a puppy. It has no control.
I mean, it could be. It could be a bad puppy. I mean, there's a.
What's a bad puppy? Tell me describe a bad puppy.
What if you convinced yourself? What if you convinced yourself?
That's the Mr.
That you
H
were running
of puppies.
over the Mr. H of puppies. What if you convinced yourself of that? Could you work your mind into such a place where you would drive a steamroller over this poor innocent dog, thinking if you had warped your brain enough to say, no, maybe this was the Mr. H of puppies, and I just prevented terrible things from happening in the future because I've ended this puppy's life.
I'm not pro doggy genocide, that's for sure.
Jeff, if this were me pre-dog owner, I would have easily answered B. but I can't bring myself to it.
Hey, Daddy's home. Lick, lick, lick.
I would probably have to take the disgusting notion of eating some hair out of a stranger's drain trap.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all, Jeff.
Why do our listeners keep doing this to us? Let's see. Here's one from Baymon. All movies have lost the normal English.
Okay.
So now you have only two options. You can watch them either with badly dubbed English, where the words and the actors are not in sync. So we're thinking like, badly dubbed, kung fu movies or
when
Godzilla
you watch
movies,
Godzilla, even though
which
you
was
don't
perfectly
have to.
dubbed and it was great. Or you have to watch the films with subtitles but no voices. So you're just reading it, but there's no. So it's not like you're hearing the French or the English or whatever language it is. It's basically a silent movie.
The reason I like watching subtitled movies in foreign languages is because you can get a better sense of what the expression in the vocalizations are that the dub might not pick up on or portray the right way. But if it's silent, then there's no point to that. So I'm just going to suffer through the bad dub.
Yeah, I think because I need the sound.
I do too.
I need the sound. I think, and again, the reason why I watched Godzilla +101, what was it called again?
Godzilla +1.
+1 was because I grew up on the original Godzilla movies that did not have subtitles and it was all badly overdubbed. So I'm cool with that. I can live with that. I can't live without hearing. I mean, we're not living in the 1900s where they had not even invented the talkies yet. I'll take the badly dubbed English version over the one with no sound at all.
If it's a really good movie with good writing, then the writing could carry the rest of the movie, I guess.
Maybe. I don't know. That's a tough one. Again, just like a much more palatable question to answer than the previous one. Still not a great choice.
No.
Let's see. Do you have one, or do you have one? We have one more here.
We have time for one more.
We have time for one more. Let us. I'm looking here. Hang on. I want to get to one of the ones that we haven't used recently. No, I'm not going to use that one, Jar Jar. No, I'm not going to do that one. It's another one of the terrible ones.
We can only do one.
All right, here we.
All
right, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and burn another one from Husker Fan for Life. This is a good one.
Let's do it.
Which of these mundane superpowers would you like to have the most? The ability to guess the precise amount of time to microwave your food so it's the perfect temperature, or the ability to guess the exact down and distance after each play while watching football? That is a mundane. Those are two very mundane superpowers, and it's a very easy one to ask. I would much rather. I kind of think I have the superpower already of knowing exactly, because I am such a veteran of microwaves. You have to remember, I've been using microwaves now for 40 years, which is probably why my head works the way it does. I have a pretty good idea on most food items exactly how much time to put in on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost feel like I have that superpower. The ability to guess the exact down and distance after each play while watching football, that actually could be one where if I could convince enough of the right people that I have this power, I could get a job being the sky official and helping the NFL correctly spot footballs.
You could. That one is definitely more lucrative.
Potentially
more lucrative. I'm going to go with the microwave one. I've also used microwaves most of my life, but I get annoyed when I put some soup in. Like today, I heated up some leftover Olive Garden soup for lunch, and I took a little taste. I'm like, it's still not quite right. I want to get it right the first time. It wastes time otherwise. I don't want to keep hitting the button.
When you reheat things, do you just hit the same number, or do you set it for, like, for example, like if I'm reheating something, sometimes I'll just put in 111.
Oh.
Because it's just easier to hit that number instead of moving my finger just one spot up or down or to the right or to the left. So like if let's say I'm reheating leftover chicken or something. Instead of putting in 60 seconds or 1 minute, I'll just go 1-1-1 and hit start.
I have a few defaults, and I'm just realizing right now that I have some defaults. I don't like the microwaves where you just hit the 1 and then it automatically starts a minute. I like being able to enter a very specific time. My girlfriend thinks I'm crazy for this because I complain about our microwave all the time. But if I hit the 1, I want it to be 1. I don't want it to be a minute because then it starts right away. Then you have to hit cancel, and then it's too time consuming. But my defaults usually are around like 45 seconds, maybe a minute 15. I'll do 45 seconds, or did I say that already? Whatever.
Yeah.
I'll type in very specific numbers.
See, my defaults are either 1-1-1 or 1-2-3, or if it's something like, something thicker that takes longer, it's 2-2-2 or 3-3-3.
Interesting.
Because I'm too lazy to move my finger and make it exactly 3 minutes or 2 minutes, so I just enter the same number 3 times and hit start.
I've never thought about speed running the microwave like that.
Well, the microwave, it's designed to make things quick, right? To speed up the process. I have now taken that and made it even faster by saving the 0.2 of a second that it took to move my hand to the precise number I was looking for. Instead, I just hit the same number 2 or 3 times and be done with it.
There's sometimes, so I'll reheat something, I'll put in like 30 seconds, and then I'll taste it. I'm like, that could use like another 20 seconds. And then usually so maybe I already have this microwave power and I didn't realize it.
You might. Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. If that wasn't dumb enough for you, that is our Wednesday tradition known as Dumb Debates. Keep sending in those dumb debates. Use the hashtag Dumb Debates on Twitter, and we'll archive them. Or you can send it to us, John, at 1620thezone.com into the Equitable Bank inbox. Speaking of that Equitable Bank inbox, we're taking some more of your March Madness memories for an opportunity to win from our great sponsor this week in the zone deals. And why do I keep forgetting who it is this week? It's ridiculous. My mind is not working today.
Backlot Pizza and Kitchen.
Backlot Pizza and Kitchen, $50 gift certificates. This one is from Trent. He said, my favorite March Madness memory was going against my late father in a yearly bracket contest, but more specifically 2011, when he predicted Butler to go back to the finals for a second straight year. I laughed at him for thinking they could go to the title game in consecutive years. He never let me live that down because famously they went back the next year. Dan with a legendary one. I remember where I was when I watched this. 1992 East Regional Final between Duke and Kentucky. Grant Hill, Christian Laettner, 2 seconds left. Duke wins. That is a painful memory for the people here in Lexington, my friends. That is a painful memory. And most people were rooting for Kentucky because they were tired of watching Duke win. The victim of that, Rick Pitino. And Rob says 1979, the local Sioux City station carried all Indiana State games on their undefeated run to Michigan State. The start of the Bird Magic rivalry. Bird was incredible. That is my earliest memory of March Madness, was Indiana State versus Michigan State. Bird versus Magic. The rivalry begins. That's another good one. Again, I'm going to pick 4 of these at random. You can keep sending them in. I'll be here for another, the show's here for another 12 minutes, but I'll be here in Lexington for a few more minutes after that. But keep sending them in. We'll pick 4 of them at random, and you can win. And by the way, that is our zone deal this week for Backlot Pizza and Kitchen. Just go to 1620thezone.com Friday morning starting at 9, and you can buy 2 $25 gift vouchers for only $50. But send us those March Madness memories, and we'll pick 4 at random, and you can win those $50 gift vouchers from the Backlot Pizza and Kitchen and 1620 The Zone.
Look, I made you some
Unsportsmanlike
content.
Unsportsmanlike content.
Unsportsmanlike content. Content that's unsportsmanlike.
Yeah, that's the only time you're going to hear Josh's voice on this Grum today.
Got him.
You know, I wouldn't wish this upon his lovely wife and his dog, but there would be a poetic justice that of the now 81,285 people without power, if he would be the last one to get it back.
Woof.
I'm not wishing that because I don't wish that upon his wife or his dog, but if there was some way that he could suffer to be the last person to get his power back, I would be all for it because it was he that brought this weather upon us in the first place.
Do you think the house with the sink in the bedroom has power right now?
Oh, absolutely it does.
Incredible.
Absolutely. Something that forward thinking probably had the power lines buried underneath the ground and probably has, shields and all kinds of things that protect it from damage of weather.
What a great house. But it's not house talk, it's content, John.
It is content. And by the way, we're leaving the air early, so this is our last segment before we head to first four basketball. American U, Mount St. Mary's coming up next year on 1620 The Zone at 5:30.
John, your Cubs are already 2 games back in the loss column before the season really actually starts. Do you want to change your plans for October yet?
Man. It sucks when the season has not really started yet and you're already 2 games back in the loss column. That said, you were playing the Dodgers, who are the best team that money can buy. So we'll grit our teeth. We'll regroup. We'll finish up with some more spring training games, and then we'll take out the rest of the National League Central later this year. But, man, offense. Need some offense.
And speaking of the Dodgers, ESPN's Jeff Passan identified 6 teams that have the best shot at unseating LA as the Emperor of Baseball. Which of the 6 ID'd, that means identified, do you most agree with?
So the 6 teams that Passan identified were the D-backs, the Braves, the Orioles, the Phillies, the Padres, and the Red Sox. I will start by process of elimination. I am eliminating the Red Sox. Sorry. I know they've got Duran, they've got Rafael Devers, they've got Bregman. Not enough pitching. Padres. I'm eliminating the Padres. No, I know the Padres, they did lead 2-1 in the playoffs last year against the Dodgers, and the Dodgers had to come back, blah, blah, blah. But it's the Padres. The Padres are not built to win. They will find a way to lose. Next team I'm going to eliminate, Baltimore Orioles. Basically because I'm going to eliminate any team in the American League. I don't think they're the team to stop the Dodgers. I think so that leaves it down to, you got the D-backs, you got the Braves, you got the Phillies. I think, man, this is tough. I'm going to lean Phillies.
Oh.
Because they've won, they've been winners recently.
Mm-hmm.
Good lineup. I think their starting pitching can match up with the Dodgers. And then you bring in some guys with some playoff heroics in their past, like Turner and Harper and Schwarber. I think that's the kind of team that could knock them off. Sneaky, good second pick. No offense, producer Josh. I'm not picking the Braves because I just don't think they can stay healthy. Diamondbacks.
Oh.
Diamondbacks have a good pitching staff, and all they have to do is just hit enough. Just hit enough, and they could be a challenge. But I'm going to go Phillies as the team of those 6 that gives the Dodgers the best run for their money.
And finally, real quick, John, will Texas or Xavier move on tonight in the second of 2 games?
I thought Xavier was playing the best basketball next to St. John's at the end of the season in the Big East Conference. So, yes, welcome to the Big East, Texas.
Nice.
Go Musketeers. Throw up the X.
Nice.
And that will be the second game of our doubleheader tonight. American U, Mount St. Mary's is coming up next. Again, a reminder, we've got Creighton coverage starting at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Blue Jay shoot around. And then 10:45, myself and Ross Ferrarini will take over here from courtside, 11:15 for tip-off. If you want to stream our broadcast, the only way that's possible is using the Varsity Network app. So visit thevarsitynetwork.com. We are not allowed to stream on 1620 The Zone or the Zone app during March Madness, but you're getting a whole bunch of other great games as well. Thanks a lot, Nick. Enjoy the basketball. Talk to you tomorrow. Go Jays.
Goodbye, everybody.